Broadcasting.com.
Isn't this a sports show?
I've been a Chiefs fan now, and I've for my entire short life, and I haven't seen any quarterbacks that are out here ready to go rock a jeans commercial. I want Patrick Mahomes to have the ability to go absolutely crush a commercial selling denim.
Almost entirely.
What are they going to do with his voice? It's Pat Mahomes with Lee Jeans here.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Well, now we talk to a man who can almost certainly say Pro Football Focus 3 times fast. Kent Swanson, actually, can you prove it?
Pro Football Focus. I can't do it. Nope.
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Here's the video, Kent. Let's just go ahead and hang out.
You're
here.
gonna make me watch this?
Yeah, 100%. It's amazing. It's You're gonna get some of the precursor here. She gets really mad, and then she takes her jacket off that's tied around her waist, and then drops trowel, leans up against the. You gotta watch, Kent. You gotta watch.
Oh.
She pooped on the floor, then he picked it up and threw it at him.
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Sometimes I'm not 100% sure where the show's going to begin, and then I glance at Twitter and say, yeah, that'll do. Dick Butkus tweets, cereal for dinner is underrated.
That'll do.
That'll do. That'll do, thank you very much. It makes me very happy to just at any point ever read the tweets of Dick Butkus. Who knew that he was going to be the star of Twitter in 2022 just by being naturally, actually good at the platform? Makes me very happy, as it makes me to be here for it Almost Entirely Sports with you here tonight on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'm Joshua Brisco, Rudy Salazar on the other side of the glass. Tonight, I am going, as I am doing right now, to do my very best to actually be able to get and see and consume and respond to all of the comments that you can leave wherever you are consuming this show. You can, of course, listen just on 810 AM on your transistor radio. Turn your radio dial to 810 WHB. But also, if you want to get the show in a new dimension, you can do that on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube channels. That's facebook.com/sportsradio810, twitch.tv/sportsradio810, and youtube.com/810WHB. We stream the show there every night. We got one. And it's one of the most fun ways that you can interact with the show and, interact with each other. We see something that we think is fun. Maybe we'll hop over and grab a comment that will, almost certainly lead us off on a 20-minute tangent for some reason. So you can get the show in all of those places. And tonight we will cover a bunch of ground. It's on Tuesdays we fully named them Seth Kaiser Tuesdays. I don't know if Kent Swanson Wednesdays is officially a thing. Kent Wednesday doesn't really work, so I'm not sure that he gets the full title of a day of the week named after him, but we'll have Kent here in about 20 minutes. A real early show action for Kent of KC Sports Network, KC Lab Podcast, all that good stuff. The KCSN Draft Guide about to drop just around the corner. So we'll talk to him about some pre-draft stuff plus everything else that's happened since the last time we had him on this show, which includes Tyreek Hill getting traded. I don't even know if we've talked about Juju. I don't think we have. So everything from that point on, we'll talk to Kent about all of that. And then we'll talk a little basketball in about an hour. Michael Swain of Fog.net, 24/7 Sports. KU's in the Final Four. Everybody's heading to New Orleans. KU has landed. I noticed in the pictures of them deplaning, instead of like a red carpet, it's sort of a like Mardi Gras print sort of carpet. It's really excellent. Mick Schaefer just tweeted a picture of the Caesars Superdome, as it has now been rebranded. He asked if the real Caesar played basketball there. Silly Mick.
Did he?
Gambling wasn't legal when Caesar was alive.
Did he play football there? Maybe soccer?
What do you think Caesar's favorite sport was? I wonder if there's any information. Let's go to Wikipedia.
Conquering?
I was going to go.
Watching his back?
It's definitely not that one.
He just wasn't very good at it. I mean, you could argue he was great at it. Just at the end, age caught up to him. It's just his reactions were a little slow.
Past his prime. It's a great point. It says here on Wikipedia he wasn't much of a sports player, but he was a health enthusiast, which is, of course, how he got his own salad.
Makes sense.
There's a lot. You know what's kind of wild? He was killed in 44 BC, okay? Right here I've got July 12th, 100 BC to March 15th, 44 BC. That's the Julius Caesar Wikipedia entry begins with those dates.
Does BC stand for before Caesar's? Salad.
That's right. In a crushing blow of fate, the Caesar salad wasn't invented until 44 years after his death. But there is a lot of documented stuff about Julius Caesar, who's been dead for a really long time. History. What an incredible thing.
I assume most historians just got it from all the movies.
That's what I would say. You just watch, maybe a stage play every once in a while. I'm afraid that if we go fully down the road of just absolutely misrepresenting history, we'll do so close to a rerun of yesterday's show that it might not even register to people as a new edition of this show.
Gotta tell you, man, I don't think I remember one single second of yesterday's show, other than Seth was on it.
We talked about your favorite presidents. We redid Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
Speaking of that, don't you think it's wild that nobody in ancient Rome had noses?
It is. I never really thought about
Look
that.
at any sculpture. Everybody look like Voldemort, I have to assume.
Little evolution,
I'm now drifting from the bit back into something that genuinely sort of is curious to me. So all of these incredible, carved works of art that we have from a bajillion years ago, a significant number of them are missing noses or arms or...
Do you want to know what the reason for that was?
No. It's going to be a real fact.
I mean, do you want to know, or I was asking, do you want to know?
Well, I mean, my assumption... Let me get my whole thought out here, and then you tell me the truth. My assumption has always just been that, gets knocked around, wear and tear. It's very, very old. The nose sticks out a little bit, so if you drop it, it's the thing that's going to fall off or whatever. Arms, if they've got arms out, there's, weak points in the marble or whatever. But I feel like just about every full ancient statue I've ever seen does still have prominent genitals. Why don't those ever get broken off? I'm 12 years old in a museum. I don't need to see 2,000-year-old marble genitals. But I would like it if this sculpture of Julius Caesar had his nose still. Instead, I'm in Animal Crossing. They have ancient art. There are dingalings in Animal Crossing because you've got Michelangelo's David. There is a high-res dong in Animal Crossing. Why couldn't that have broken off? And let Venus keep her arms. Anyway, what were you going to say, Rudy? That was sort of a personal issue.
Yeah, it's no problem. I always say, you're not super far off with the weak points and everything, but simply put, doors just weren't very wide, and so you just had to start chipping off pieces,
including noses and stuff.
Yeah, because the nose it sticks out a little too far, and their doors were just a little too narrow, and they weren't big on measuring things. They had tape measures back then. The kind that you hit the button and it comes immediately back. It just wasn't really what they did.
From I'm gonna say Govan, perhaps Govan on YouTube. A few comments, but the one
Van Gogh
on YouTube says a bunch of fun. There's a bunch of fun comments. The one that really jumped out to me was, "I sense a 20-minute digression brewing." Nailed it. And then also from Ryan Ewing, "Oh my God, what happened in the first 10 minutes of the show that I missed?" Shockingly little. We got from my plan to talk about the Chiefs' defensive depth chart to there being some not E for everyone material in Animal Crossing really quickly. That's an issue that's really been close to my heart for a while now. So anyway, we'll talk to
For your nose.
No, not close to my nose, because my nose fell off 2,000 years ago. Which I'm honestly getting a little bit worried that might be something that I'm actually wishing for. These last couple of days, started really getting that throat tickle, started really getting some of that congestion. Allergy season's the worst. I know we have liners of me saying stuff about how spring and summer are Satan's seasons, specifically because of the allergies that some of us out here are suffering from. I am nervous, though, that, like, Friday, I'm either going to have, like, almost no voice or that I'm going to sound even more nasally than usual.
We just might not be that far from this. That's my concern.
I got lots of allergy meds. I got nasal spray and all of that, but
This is going to show up at some point in the spring.
I don't hear the difference.
Most people won't. It just makes me breathier because if I do it like this for a while and have to breathe through my mouth.
that's not the kind of AESMR that we like to bring people around here.
I couldn't tell. Did you do something weird?
No, nothing weird. Nothing weird at all. Somewhere in hour 3, we've got a nice sort of wide open pasture of land for some potential AES after dark situations. I've got some total nonsense, both from the trip that Renee and I took last week to my early exploration through the new Kirby game on Switch. I don't know if I think Rudy has purchased and not yet played Tunic.
That is correct.
We can talk about why you bought it, I guess. I don't know. We'll do some unlike this segment that's been so serious and sportsy. We'll probably do some real AES after dark sort of nonsense coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. But Michael Swain at 8 to talk about the Final Four and KU's spot in it, and then Kent here in just a few minutes. Well, one thing that I was planning on opening the show with, and you'd think I'd learned by now, but it was something that we didn't have any time to talk about after Seth last night because we kept Seth for basically the entire hour. We're spending most of our breath on the Chiefs this offseason on the receiver position, especially now. What can the Chiefs do to get their offense to a place where there's not a seismic drop-off from having Tyreek Hill to not having Tyreek Hill? Whenever you go poke around that depth chart on the defensive side, things get dark pretty quick. Maybe you've got your linebackers now. They've got their 2 new additions. They're going to be your 3 and your 4. Nick Bolton and Willie Gay are your 1s and 2s. Okay. Please don't spend one of your top 50 picks on a linebacker. Your safeties are probably where you want them to be. You draft somebody later to be your 4th guy and maybe develop a little bit. Not totally sure what the plan's going to be for Juan Thornhill in the long run. I'm seeing Rudy make some faces. It's making me nervous. Has news happened mid-monologue? Oh, boy. I'm not looking. I'm not even looking at my screen.
Peter King is reporting that Bruce Arians is retiring.
Oh, whoa.
Moving to the Buccaneers front office, and that defensive coordinator Todd Bowles is picked to replace him.
Wow.
Yeah. Little surprise. I mean, like, it's
One
not
of these days, I'm going to talk about the Chiefs' defense. It's not going to be this segment. Okay, I tried. You heard me try.
Surprising.
Wow,
With
okay.
Brady coming back, you would think. Now, I mean, he's not leaving the team, right? He's still going to be in the front office. But you just think, I assume a Tom Coughlin-like move. Just think you would continue being the head coach.
And why today? Lindsey Jones of The Athletic just tweeted that Arians departed the owners' meetings early this week. Like, did something happen this week that had him go, I'm good, actually? Now,
Also, you're not technically retiring if you're moving to the front office. You're still working.
The phrase from Peter King here is Bruce Arians retiring from coaching, moving to Buccaneers front office. And then, defensive coordinator Todd Bowles picked to replace him. Staff being told the news at this hour is just kind of a wild one. Bruce Arians isn't a outrageously young coach. Todd Bowles has been stupid good as a defensive coordinator of the Buccaneers. Deserves a head coaching position in a competent organization. Todd Bowles being the head coach of this Bucs team makes sense. My question, though, is why now? And this might be answered here. I'm looking at Peter King's full piece at this point. The move comes as a surprise, but perhaps not a shock. Arians, the most colorful coach in a buttoned-up pro game, said he started thinking about stepping aside at the NFL Scouting Combine a month ago. He's a prostate cancer survivor and was hospitalized due to an illness late in his first head coach tenure in Indianapolis in 2012. He's suffering from a torn Achilles today, but when he explained his reasons, health wasn't the big thing. He said he's relinquishing the Tampa job because, quote, succession has always been huge for me. With the organization in probably the best shape it's been in its history with Tom Brady coming back, I'd rather see Todd in a position to be successful and not have to take some, brackets, crappy job. That is Peter King censoring Bruce Arians.
Could have just called out the Texans.
Oh, maybe instead of, I was assuming that Arians said SE job there. Maybe Bruce Arians said not have to take some Texans job. Maybe he just named the Houston Texans as a curse word. I'm probably retiring next year anyway in February, so I control the narrative right now. I don't control it next February because if Brady gets hurt, we go 10-7, and it's an open interview for the job. I got 31 coaches and their families that depend on me. My wife is big on not letting all those families down. He was scheduled to inform his coaching staff in an 8 p.m. Zoom call Wednesday, and he planned to send a message to his players explaining his decision concurrent with telling his coaches. Now, I think on some level, that paragraph is Peter King saying he was going to tell all these people, but I told them first. But if that's Eastern time, maybe he did successfully talk to all of them at 8, and then this dropped 10 or 15 minutes afterwards. King had all the stuff lined up.
They might be in the process of having this Zoom meeting.
8 p.m. Zoom call, again, assuming Eastern time there, of course. That would have been, while we were talking about Julius Caesar, Bruce Arians was probably telling his staff that he was retiring from coaching. And then I'm guessing that, Peter King here has direct quotes about this, so I'm guessing that he got to talk to Arians under the pretense, I won't say anything till 15 after the hour, and then we'll run the story. Here you go. So I'm not going to read you this whole thing, but he says, King writes, in a way, Arians said, Brady coming out of retirement encouraged him to move on. In a 25-minute conversation, Arians explained the reasons for this decision dated back to February 2021. Quote, it hit me after the Super Bowl, he said. I thought really hard about going out on top. Then it was like, nah, let's go for 2. The 2021 season was a grind with all the injuries, but still winning and timeout. I'm gonna add my own brackets here, okay? I'll tell you when they're coming. The 2021 season was a grind with all the injuries, brackets, and Antonio Brown into brackets, but still winning and getting to where we got. Immediately after, 2 to 3 weeks afterward, I thought if I quit, my coaches get fired. I couldn't do it then. Tom was kind of the key. When Tom decided to come back, and all these guys back now, it's the perfect timing for me to just go into the front office and still have the relationships that I love. Here it says Arians said he wanted Bowles, the architect of the Bucs' suffocating 2020 defense that held Kansas City to 0 touchdowns in a 31-9 Super Bowl win.
Seems
don't
like an
remember that.
Tidbit.
I don't remember that happening. Is that what they're predicting for this year?
A lot
I'm
of
confused.
sports have not happened in the last 2 years. Like the pandemic killed a Super Bowl.
Yep.
It killed 2 NCAA tournaments.
Sure.
It's crazy, but
That's kind of interesting. I wonder, again, 4 times during a discussion. Okay, here you go. So I'm asking these questions and reading this story for the first time, so bear with me. But King writes here, 4 times during a discussion about why now, Arians kept coming back to his coaching staff. Quote, "I know my guys are going to be taken care of. I couldn't leave them hanging." And then the next section of the story is called Unusual Timing. Arians and the Bucks wanted Bowles to get the job, and so they went to the league and said, essentially, let's not go through sham interviews. We know we're hiring Bowles, who will improve the league's bottom line for minority hires. Also true. There wouldn't be a Rooney Rule issue there, it says. The timing brings up what certainly will be an internet-fueled round of speculation. Weird, just sort of a little curmudgeonly internet jab there. It was rumored that Brady had problems with Arians and the supposed lax nature of how the team was handled at times in his first 2 years with the team, and factored into Brady's 40-day retirement at the end of the 2021 season. Arians says here that was there any connection there? No, Tom was very in favor of what I'm doing. I mean, I had conflicts with every player I coached because I cussed them all out, including him. Great relationship off the field. Yeah, there you go. Bruce Arians retiring from coaching, moving into the front office of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Todd Bowles taking the reins. Here's the very, very end of this story. This is Bruce Arians talking about being legit done. No, Arians said, this is it. I'm going to be 70 in October. I just look forward to helping the Bucs because they've been so great to me and my family. There's one other benefit Arians pointed out to making this call now. Quote, "I don't have to worry about how many cocktails I have on Saturday night," he said. Big of him just for that to not be something he already wasn't worrying about. Remember that the idea of how to just stealing from Bomani Jones from the right time and just having like a 30-second music bed that you can play while I tell you something directly, Rudy, that no one else is allowed to hear. This would be one of the times that we could do that. But we have a break to take anyway. We have Kent Swanson on the other side, so I have a funny story for just Rudy. I'm really sorry to do that to everybody else. The consolation prize, though, is that we will have our friend Kent Swanson of KCSN on the other side of this break. We'll talk about the Chiefs wide receiver room, their defensive depth chart. I don't know if he has Bruce Arians' take, but I guess we'll find out with Kent Swanson of KCSN next.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
If you haven't gotten the context clues, it's Kent Swanson now of the KC Sports Network back in the building.
Yeah, it's the opportunity we've been waiting for to talk to you again. Finally, there's been some some restrictions there,
right?
And now I get to hang out with you again. It has been 3 years since I've been on this show.
Death is a big restriction.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
If only we had something to talk to Kent about. It's just been such a quiet time since the last time we had him on. I believe the last time Kent Swanson was on this show.
Was it before the show?
I think...
Because a lot's happened just since the show started.
Since the show started, that's true. I think the last time Kent was on this show, McCole Hardman is the only receiver. I'm not kidding. I think this might be legit true. I think McCole Hardman was the only Chiefs wide receiver in the same place that he is currently in from that time to this time. The good news is all of the links and stuff to get to KC Sports Network, those are on the same place they were last time. You go to kcsn.substack.com for all the work they do on the Substack here from KC Sports Network. You can follow him on Twitter at Kent_Swanson, although I wish you wouldn't. And the KC Draft Guide, KC Sports Network Draft Guide. You can go pre-order right now. It is nearly here. You can go to gum.co, gum.co/KCSN22. It'll take you there. Lots of good deals in different ways if you're a subscriber to the Substack and everything. Actually, I don't know if all those deals are still active. It has been a long time since you've been on, Kent.
Brisco sucks still active. So you use that code literally.
No, hey Kent, don't. Hey man, don't. Hey Kent, time out real quick. We can wait until you're not 40 feet from your phone talking into a blender with a questionable connection. If this is a bad time, we can.
Can you hear me?
It was just fine when I was talking to him on the phone.
It sounds like whatever. It sounds like if it was fine when you talked to Rudy, it sounds like you took your phone, threw it across the house, it broke, but somehow stayed connected.
Okay, please hold. We're gonna do this. Okay, hold.
So here's the thing. I put him literally on hold so you can check this.
I was also going to suggest trying putting him on hold and then taking him off hold and see how that works.
I was going to let you even check. Well, no, let's play it on air. I think that's fun. It's just I put him on hold in part because it's not just that you sound like you're far away, but it's that the connection is, just really questionable. But let's try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's just not much better.
Okay, just wait. This is great radio. Please hold one more time. This is great. This is really
Are you on a speaker system that runs through the house?
The connection's at least good now.
The connection is better. The connection is better.
It just does sound like you're in a different room other than your phone.
It sounds like you have a soup can up to your phone and then a string on another soup can, and you're talking through the far soup can.
So
I can hear you.
Hold on.
No, this is great.
I'm gonna do this later. I'll just do this with my phone to my ear like a dad.
Yes.
I know. So here's the thing. I got a new phone last week. Yeah, I got the Samsung S22. So I'm still not an Apple slave like I'm sure Josh is. I'm just assuming because that's just Josh.
Yeah. My phone also works, so this is a weird time for you to take up this cause.
I don't know if this is when I would be flexing.
Look,
Hey, man, Kent, the Galaxy Buds go in your ears.
The Galaxy Buds are in my ears, and the Galaxy Buds, maybe the connection was bad. I don't know. Rudy seemed to be hearing me just fine. That's all I'm going to say.
And you think it's my fault that it wasn't working earlier and does sound beautiful now? This new phone you got right now sounds wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. It's my new phone. I just took the earbuds out. I'm really bummed because they've been working just fine. I don't know. I'll have to figure the technology out later.
I know
this is what we set. This is what we set out to talk about too. I know.
This show has never successfully started and ended a segment in the same place, so I'm not that heated about it.
Thoughts on Caesar?
My thought is that the buds probably weren't actually pulling the audio for you just then, and it sounded like wherever your phone was at. But if you were hearing us through your headphones, I do not know the answer. Because you're right. I'm a relatively recent Apple. It's really just iPhone, my watch, and the AirPods. But you're right. It is super lame how they all just work all the time.
Look, I'm going to figure this tech out. Next time I call, I'm going to have it worked out, and then you can no longer be a brand snob, which you are totally being right now. So
I wasn't going to be until you absolutely sideswiped me for no reason. But
I think it's just a lot of pent-up aggression because every single person that has an iPhone rolls their eyes when someone says the word Galaxy.
No, I mean, I was a big Android guy as like a teen and through early college. I mean, then I grew up, of course, but, I had that stage.
It was all pre-diabetes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was pre-diabetes and also being 17. But look, I mean, if you, dear listener, go pre-order the 2022 KCSN Draft Guide, maybe someday Kent can afford an iPhone. You can go pre-order that now. You've got a promo code for Draftmas. It will get you the guide in a month to the Substack for only $12.99. That's an incredible deal. Plus, you can you just pay $25 for it and get 6 months of the KCSN Substack. So many deals that you can get. Brisco Sucks is probably on there somewhere, but Kent's phone sucks might not.
Well, see, I was saying Brisco Sucks when you told me my phone was terrible, so I was trying to plug that fine promo code. That is like the lowest discount we give out, and yeah, I only tell people about it when I listen to this show. So Brisco Sucks gets you at the same price that the subscribers of KC Sports Network get it for. So.
What a good deal! That's I'm glad that we can offer that as a consolation prize for everybody who just wasted 5 minutes listening to us troubleshoot and then talk bleep about phone brands. Because
is this tech support or a radio show?
Yeah, both. Why not both? The annoying thing about it, the only annoying thing, I enjoy our conversations, but we've had our chats that come in like June and July that often end up being about cell phones for 20 minutes because nothing new has happened in 2 months. That is not the case right now. It is very much not the case right now. There's a lot of stuff that again, that your whole crew on the KCSN Substack has written that we could touch on, that people should go read. But take me to 30,000 feet. Take me to where you were at when the Tyreek Hill trade incoming tweet started, and then 3 hours later, he was a Dolphin.
Yeah, that was a wild few hours. And it's going to sound like this is kind of just a philosophical kind of like feeling that I have for basically everything about the Chiefs. I'm not surprised by anything that happens in this league or by this team as long as Patrick Mahomes is still here. And I think this team is like Patrick Mahomes to me is the only constant, the only thing I'm legitimately attached to about this football team, because I think everything about the most volatile sport is fleeting. And the majority of Patrick Mahomes' career was going to be spent without Tyreek Hill. Was it a little bit surprising that they did it when they did it? Absolutely. That 3 hours was a little bit shocking. But at the same time, I mean, I got over it quickly because this team is ramping up for the next wave of Mahomes' career, the next phase of Mahomes' career, and they got a lot of draft capital to do it. It's going to change some things, obviously, but I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the constant. Patrick Mahomes is why the Chiefs have the second best odds in the AFC West still, even though the Chiefs don't employ a cornerback. So, yeah, I mean, I know it sucked, and it's easy to get emotionally tied to some of these guys, but I mean, this is going to happen a lot in the next decade, and the Chiefs are going to win a lot of football games still, regardless.
What does it do in the immediate for you? Like to do it, like to zoom in on Tyreek Hill here, because there's a million things that this sparks off in different directions that I do want to get back to. But whenever you go, Tyreek Hill is not going to be on this team in 2022. Obviously, the rest of the receiver room is very different already. But this might be too vague of a question. But what do the Chiefs lose?
Well, I mean, they lose the guy that, the feedback is, like every defensive coordinator is excited. Every defensive coordinator tries to figure out how do you stop Tyreek Hill, and like there's some reality to that. And they did a very, very, very good job of kind of doing that in some ways. Like, not to say that Tyreek Hill wasn't productive, not to say that he wasn't good last year, but the way that Tyreek Hill was used changed because of how defenses eventually were kind of so laser focused on keeping a lid on that thing. So, yeah, I think things change. I still don't think teams are going to get out of too high structures. I think the Chiefs are just going to have to drive down the field with great consistency. I mean, I think that's going to be the model anyway. But, I think they lose the guy that has really just terrified teams in a lot of different ways, and now they're going to have to do a little bit differently. It's not a bad thing because the guy calling plays is still uniquely capable of doing it and has done it before Tyreek Hill. But I just think it's the guy that really scares teams in a lot of different ways, and now he's gone, and things are going to get different now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the Chiefs' offense is going to be fundamentally different on some level, I would think. There's a lot of kind of interesting stuff. I'm sure that some of it that I'm remembering was stuff that you tweeted and that you and Craig and Matt were going around about. But now whenever you look at this offense without Tyreek Hill, and again, to hit pause on the specifics of Juju and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and whoever else they might bring in, either a veteran or a rookie, but to go more like schematically facing here. Travis Kelce, still here. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, still here. But what changes, presuming that the Chiefs don't trade for a obvious number one, right? Presuming that the depth chart is a highly touted rookie and these guys, or even maybe it's a mid-level sort of veteran and these guys. What is the offense, how does it look different without Tyreek Hill in terms of like what they're trying to do? Not just in what defensive coordinators are going to have to do differently, but in the way that the offense is going to seem different.
Well, I know you want me to kind of separate the players that they brought in from the scheme, but I think it all kind of works together. But sure. I think just some of these elements are in the aggregate. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds like we're just gonna there's no way to replace Tyreek Hill, but there are a lot of people that they're going to utilize to kind of cobble together some of the things he's capable of. I think McCole Hardman's role opens up a lot more because now McCole can maybe be a little bit more manufactured and continue to be more manufactured. Maybe he's some of those, the guy that's kind of getting some of those underneath routes where the Chiefs are pressing vertically and throwing a little drag route underneath. I think where Juju Smith-Schuster wins in that short to intermediate becomes a lot more valuable. Like they're still going to do a lot of the same things. It's just the guys running it may not be at the same caliber. But maybe it does get teams out of that too high a little bit. Maybe they run the football a little bit more if teams are going to continue to stay in too high. Like there's a lot of different things that can kind of change, but I don't think you can tie scheme that without tying it to personnel either. And like the Chiefs have kind of utilized and grabbed some guys that can kind of do different things in the aggregate to stretch the field or vertically and horizontally. Like I think some guys are better equipped to do that now.
So, I mean, go ahead then and bring in MVS and Juju however much you want, and we'll get to some rookies at some point, certainly. But with those additions, like you wrote about Juju, and then the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill, right? Like
immediately after, yeah, it was great.
I don't know how much that changes your analysis on him and what he can do, and what Valdez-Scantling can do that might be able to be, here are some things that Tyreek Hill can do. Here's how this guy can do some of that stuff. And also, I understand it's different to itemize that out to different players because teams aren't going to have to respect Tyreek Hill amounts of stuff from Marquez Valdez-Scantling, even though he can do a couple of those things still. So I still have a lot of questions about what that's going to ultimately look like. I'm also kind of excited about it. So tell me what you think is most interesting then about the guys they have brought in an effort to kind of insulate some of the damage that losing Hill would bring.
Well, I think MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling is the one that's super interesting to me. Like I've always been fascinated by Juju, but like I think if I was just going to kind of build conceptually how this offense could work in some way, shape, or form, you're going to get McCole Hardman and Marquez Valdez-Scantling working vertically. The Chiefs like to run the deep over route. They really use the deep over route a lot. Teams were hell-bent on taking it away, but really, like if teams play middle field closed defense, which is a safety in the middle of the field, the Chiefs have the speed with Marquez Valdez-Scantling and McCole Hardman to take away or to really put that middle field safety in conflict with their verticals, right? At a 3-by-1, they'll run McCole all the way across the field. They'll run Valdez-Scantling kind of a straight line to the goalpost, and that really puts a safety in a bind. Okay, so you got that concept working, right? You can put Travis Kelce isolated on the backside of the formation, and he has 15 yards in to run an option route or whatever he feels like, because that's just what Mahomes and Kelce have, that kind of chemistry. They just figure it out based on leverage as the play is happening. Right. And then you've got Juju Smith-Schuster working underneath that. underneath those vertical routes on the 3-by-1 side. So you kind of got those areas of the field that the Chiefs have the skill sets to attack. They've got guys that can kind of run that stuff underneath. So I think, the lid maybe comes off a little. It's a little bit looser now. And, I like the idea of Valdez-Scantling with his ability. He's a ball winner down the field that's different than what the Chiefs have had. Yeah. So, there's even little elements to that field. You got a better underneath guy than Byron Pringle running an option route and sometimes, frankly, not knowing which route to run. You've got a guy that kind of wins differently vertically down the field, can win at the catch point, strong. Maybe the hands aren't great, but he has some unique abilities. There's some pieces and some elements there. If you kind of look conceptually, there's spaces for all these guys to have a lot of success.
So I'm gonna ask this from the direction of somebody who is excited about what you just said, right? I am really intrigued to see if what you just described can keep this offense humming at a very similar level to where it was with Tyreek Hill. And if it can, you want to talk about the fact that this defense needs 10 more players on it currently. You got a dozen draft picks. Now, but 4 of those, I think, are 7ths. Everything else is a 1 through 4. There's a lot of draft capital. I know you're right about that as well. But if you can do that without the cap space and getting those draft picks back and be able to reload that way while keeping the offense the offense's head above water, I'm thrilled. Also, just so you know where I'm coming from, you probably knew this already, but I generally speaking I'm all in favor of trade the veteran a year too soon to give yourself more assets to work with to get younger and cheaper. That is sort of the rotation that I would love to see the Chiefs continue to do. I also would say that Tyreek Hill does not qualify for the phrase generally speaking because he's Tyreek Hill. It's not very general. But with what you just said, I could see the vision for where this offense evolves and stays really good. I also wonder, genuinely asking, if you're a defense and you see that formation with those 4 guys out there, don't you more or less know what at least 3 of them are going to be doing because they are more one-dimensional players than Tyreek Hill is? Is that unfair?
Yeah, I think so. Because I think what I just kind of described outside, I think MVS, I think there's a pretty defined skill set there. But a couple things. MVS, very good blocker. So you've got a guy that can really block. So if the Chiefs are going to have to stick in the run game a little bit more, Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, very capable blockers. What I just talked about with McCole Hardman was something that we really didn't see a ton of, and we know it's in there, and we know he's able to do it. But this is if the lid comes off a little bit, the Chiefs can really attack middle field closed coverage with him and MVS. But you kind of think about, look, McCole Hardman, a lot of the touches that had a lot of success in the back half of the year were the manufactured touches behind the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. So the jets, the screens, those were the areas of the field that he was having a lot of success. Now, if you want to say, he screens and verticals, that's what he's always been. But, I don't think it's a predictable offense still yet because I think you've got a lot of guys that you can use, with the manufactured looks. Juju, the Steelers could use him a little bit in some of those areas, too, to try to get him manufactured touches. You got a little bit more unique skill sets there. So, I get what you're saying, and I think if I was going to describe kind of conceptually what you want all the guys doing for the Chiefs anyway, you would probably put Tyreek Hill in a little bit of a box too, just kind of the way that this team has played in the past too. Mm-hmm. So I think there is enough kind of diversity of skill set to make this offense not as predictable. Especially, because I think they can run the ball. I think they're going to run the ball better this year than they did. I think they will be better running the football, which I'm sure you're thrilled about.
No, look, if they're going to run it, I'd rather them run it better than worse. That's okay. That is still my take. If teams are going to dare you to run the ball, I wish they would accept the dare. I actually do. I just think, generally speaking, NFL teams should probably run the ball less. I haven't said that about the Chiefs in a minute though, because it hasn't been true in a while. So I understand that. I guess for me, the thing that I am maybe a little bit of a skeptic on, and now not just to ask the most sort of pointed question possible, but I think I'm a little bit skeptical on, is can this offense be more multidimensional with more single-dimensional players? And single-dimensional is not totally fair. But nobody's as multidimensional as Tyreek Hill is, though. Even though, I don't know, maybe you would push back on that because of specifically the way he has been used recently. But that doesn't feel like a Tyreek Hill problem as much as that feels like a usage problem to me. So I'm not sure if I would even connect those. I don't know.
No, Tyreek Hill is the most multidimensional football player of any weapon. I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, no, you're absolutely right. But the thing is that teams were really trying to they were reducing the dimensions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Teams were so locked in to removing the dimensions, of his game, and they had a lot of success. You saw the yards per catch and all that stuff going down so significantly because he was having to operate after the catch. I mean, some of this team's offense was, hey, let's just throw the ball 1 yard in front or behind the line of scrimmage and hope to God Tyreek Hill gets 7 yards here to gain, to extend his drive. So, yeah, I mean, I think some things open up a little bit differently because maybe the attention isn't being paid, or maybe you can get teams out of too high a little bit more without Tyreek Hill on the field. And maybe McCole Hardman's usage can become a little bit more valuable to this football team, and you can do a little bit of the stuff there with him. And I think there's some things that potentially open up. To say that it's going to be the same is not, but to say that this team can't find success, I think they can be as productive or more productive, because this was last year was quote unquote a down year for the offense, and some of the statistics only top 5,
right?
Not clear cut number 1. I mean, I know what we're talking about here, but I mean, there's probably I don't want to say teams figured them out, but teams found a way to slow that version of that offense down, and now Andy Reid's got to go back to the drawing board. Not necessarily a bad thing.
With that being said, last thing along these lines, what does this mean for Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, I think it means that I don't know when I'm unleashing all my Mahomes takes, but I think you're about to see an MVP season out of Patrick Mahomes. I think people are going to realize that I don't want to say it doesn't matter who you throw around him. I just think it matters. I think Patrick Mahomes is the guy that's going to really shine through all this, because there's finally a little bit of a hint of adversity, because the Arrowhead Invitational, the AFC Championship game the last 4 years, and people getting bored with all of the narratives about Mahomes. People are exhausted with Mahomes, and now he's finally facing a new narrative, a new storyline, something different. And people are going to be reminded again, oh, that's right, this guy's the best player in football. We talk about Tyreek Hill's dig route against the Bills, that he turned into a touchdown. That was remarkable. That was an absolute dot by Mahomes. That was a perfect. He hit him in stride. So I just think about these plays. I'm just like, look, Mahomes. It does he carves people up. He goes out and it doesn't matter what offense you run in some ways. As long as the battery of Reed and Mahomes are there, it doesn't matter who's catching passes. He's found a way to have success with or without Tyreek Hill. I think having Tyreek Hill away from him is going to present a very fun narrative, and I think Patrick Mahomes, the media is going to not be bored enough with him, or not going to be bored with him this year, and maybe give him an MVP nod.
I like that take a lot, actually. So
I have more to it. I'm just we gotta wait till June at least.
Yeah, we got a lot of time. You gotta ration the takes out. You wrote today about I think this I read it today. Did it come out today? It was today, 14 hours ago. We're good. Looking at what the Chiefs could do with their draft capital, and the movement that they could bring. It's up on the KC Sports Network Substack, kcsn.substack.com. We're not gonna go step by step through that, but I'm curious in the larger scale view. If people want more, they can go read it online. But bigger picture right now, whenever you look at all of the things the Chiefs have, all of the different ranges that you dictate, how far up could they move, who would they move up for, what do you like? They can go read what could happen in the piece, but tell me what you would like to see the Chiefs do with all these draft picks and a decent number of open spots.
So I've kind of been all over the place, and this is just I'm a kid at a candy store because I love draft capital. It's so much fun. I one time I was like, what, the Chiefs should just trade up for a wide receiver. They should trade up for a wide receiver. Trade up twice. I'm not even team trade up very often, but I kind of thought, hey, trade up to the middle of the round and try to draft an edge rusher, then trade up to the 20s and draft a receiver, which they could very easily do with all the draft capital they have. I think I'm starting to become more, maybe trade up for an edge rusher is the only real trade up I'm super tantalized by at this point, because for all the reasons, this team has a lot of needs they got to address. They have a lot of holes they got to fill. both this year and for the future. And, this is a good draft to have 6 picks in the top 103. And so, I'm okay with like a small trade up, into the middle of round 1, I think, to maybe grab an edge rusher if one falls. But if not, and take whatever you best player available, best at 29, and a receiver at 30. Just there's going to be a good receiver at 30 for this team to take. And I think I'm kind of leaning more stand pat, closer to standing pat than anything at this point, because there's good players to be had in that top 103.
Is there one receiver in that late first round range that wouldn't be like a draft day shock if he fell, but somebody that you expect to go around that range or maybe even a tiny bit after that stands out to you amongst the others?
Well,
a Kent's guy sticker.
Like George Pickens out of Georgia, who's more of that true X type. Like, I think we're very, very high on him in the KCSN draft guide. He's wide receiver 1 for us. Go watch his freshman tape. I mean, that dude is a unicorn. But yeah, George Pickens, like if the injury concerns push him back down, which I honestly think when it's all said and done, Pickens goes top 20 though. But like Olave, like the beautiful thing, and I think why I'm so interested in standing pat at wide receiver is there's so many good receivers. Chris Olave stands out. You could, a Treylon Burks makes some sense here. There's some Christian Watson you could even get at a North Dakota State. So, I like Pickens if he's there. I like Chris Olave a lot if he's there too. Those are probably the 2 top guys. But man, you're not going to be dissatisfied with the receivers that are going to be available at 30. I just know that.
I like that. I'm also generally team stand pat because I would love for this team to suddenly end up in a year or two having more cap space than they know what to do with, because the roster is pretty well set from a bunch of youth that they've been adding. I am really close to being really excited about like the 3 or 4 year plan of this team, but there's just so much we don't know yet that I'm also a little nervous to be that kind of excited. I gotta say, I just hope Brett Veach is currently going through the. I hope you send him an advanced copy of the KCSN draft guide. Tell people what they can get from this draft guide again. Gum.co, gum.co/KCSN22. If you want to just get it straight from the page there, you can use the promo code Brisco Sucks and get a big discount there. Sell everybody on what you guys do if they haven't been around for years past of the draft guide and what they're going to get in this year's.
So April 6th, which is next Wednesday, this upcoming Wednesday, you are going to get 225 write-ups on prospects and how they fit the Chiefs, and these are like 500 words, pages about these prospects and how they fit the Chiefs. And so you're going to get that. You're going to get some really cool features. We've done some really in-depth study on cornerback athletic testing. Craig that writes this article that kind of tells and predicts based on athletic testing. It's super interesting. Maddie's been doing some stuff kind of studying what Steve Spagnuolo typically prefers in his defensive ends, and kind of gives you an idea of the guys that Steve Spagnuolo typically prefers. We got all kinds of features in that, and it's like a 300-page book. Mm-hmm. You get it for $12.99, and you get a month to KCSN Substack, which I would get now because you'll get it all the way through draft. You'll basically get it through the draft, and so you'll get to see all of our reactions during the draft week and all that good kind of stuff. So $12.99, go to gum.co/KCSN22. Promo code DraftMiss gets you for $12.99. Promo code Brisco Sucks gets you for $9.99.
Wow.
So, yeah, you can dunk on Josh and, help me buy a functioning phone.
Thank you, Kent. I assume we'll try to talk to you again next Wednesday. I don't know exactly how it's all going to shake out, but sometime very soon we will chat again, and I cannot wait. If anyone's watching on the video feeds right now, you hopefully saw just a big bleep-eating grin on my face for the last minute, because I love this draft guide. I love that you guys have stuck with it on an annual basis. I can't wait to see this version as the KCSN draft guide. It's incredible work, specifically about picks for the team that you root for, dear listener. It's incredible.
The Royals?
Not that one. The Royals draft guide. I don't know. Ask BJ if he wants you guys to do a Royals draft guide. Maybe you guys can get that moving.
Hey, you never know.
I do, actually. I do know. You're not doing a Royals draft guide. But this is the good one. Thank you, Kent.
Anytime, buddy.
Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network. Go pre-order the draft guide if you haven't already. It's unbelievable. I am so excited to get this year's edition of it with all these picks the Chiefs have, all these receivers. I can't wait. We will shift gears from football to basketball here on the other side of this break, as all of our coverage of the NCAA Final Four on Radio Row down there in New Orleans is brought to you by Worth Harley-Davidson, Amini's, Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park, Premier Mazda of Kansas City, Core First Bank, and Hy-Vee. Thanks to all of them for hopping on board to help send some of our folks down there to New Orleans. I'll bring you some coverage. You'll hear the rest of the week as we lead up to the Final Four. Of course, you'll be able to hear both the Final Four games and the national championship here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Anybody we know playing in it?
I don't think it's a bunch of blue blood teams who wear blue as their primary color. So I would have to assume Kentucky made it. KU, North Carolina, Duke, and another. Oh, now it's Villanova. Sorry, Rudy. That's some really horrible news. Michael Swain next.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
My heart was racing just making spaghetti. I could have waited to tell my doctor, but I didn't wait.
I was short of breath just reading a book. I could have delayed telling my doctor, but I didn't wait.
They told their doctors and found out they have atrial fibrillation, a condition which makes it about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. If you have one or more of these symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath,
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Chewie, we're home.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Final Four is nearly here. You'll be able to hear it and the national championship game here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We've sent Todd Lebo down to New Orleans. You'll be able to hear from him from Radio Row in New Orleans this week. All brought to you by Worth Harley-Davidson, Amini's, Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park, Premier Mazda of Kansas City, Core First Bank, and Hy-Vee. Also live from New Orleans, presumably in a hotel room, I don't know, just wearing just heaps and heaps and heaps of Mardi Gras beads, I guess. I don't know. Michael Swain of 24/7 Sports, fog.net. Follow him on Twitter at mswain247. Michael, I have no idea how long you have been in New Orleans to this point. Have you done anything fun yet?
Nothing fun yet, but I'm not on Zoom. I don't know how you know what I look like right now. That's a little weird. But no, it's been good so far. Landed just in time to run into, you mentioned Todd Lebo there, ran into him at the little welcome thing, and so was able to get here in time to do that. Came back, wrote some stuff, and now we are here. So nothing too fun yet, but excited to kind of explore New Orleans here later this week.
Yeah, New Orleans is like a bucket list city that I have not yet made it to, that I would love to just be able to meander around some. Now, you do say you haven't done anything fun yet, and you also said you have seen Lebo, so I feel like there's something not completely true or completely adding up there. But yeah, I could hear the jangling of your Mardi Gras beads just over the phone. I'm very, very perceptive that way. If you want to read what Michael's written so far and stay locked in for the coverage all the way through the Final Four and maybe through the national championship game, fog.net, your place to do that. I mean, look, man, we could start in any bajillion numbers of places here because we just saw some very interesting basketball from KU to get to this point. We've seen the evolution of some of the best stories of this team this year. Some of the times that we sat on this show and had conversations about, is Remy Martin going to ever play? Is David McCormick still good? Is his foot okay? The places we've ended up after specifically that game against Miami and really the entirety of the last weekend of basketball. Pick your favorite of the stories that stand above the rest to you for KU.
I mean, it has to be Remy Martin, doesn't it?
Has to be,
just
yeah.
The rise he's been on since the start of postseason is pretty incredible. And that's what I wrote about today when I got to New Orleans was the comparisons to Malik Newman. And I don't think he's at the Malik Newman level yet. It's kind of crazy because you think Remy's been on this such a huge tear. And then you look at Malik Newman's numbers, and then you remember that, oh, my God, he was just the best, maybe the best player in the country at that point. Like, he was averaging like 22 points a game, shooting above 50% from the field, which for reference, like Ochai averaged about 19 for the season. So he's 3 more points per game than that, which is incredible.
Crazy.
But still, Remy Martin has been on a tear, and he's the reason why KU is here. Because if they did not have him, I don't think they get by Providence. I don't know if they get by Creighton. I think that he is one of the driving forces behind this run. And I think it's interesting the way that things have played out. Obviously, we've covered the story and the trajectory of its season. But I think just the fact that game in and game out, he's bringing energy off the bench, and that hasn't been zapped yet by any opposing team. You know, obviously, Creighton made the mistake of sagging off him, and Remy Martin made some threes against him. But even against other teams, he's still able to make a huge impact, even though you know what's going to happen at the under-16 timeout when he's going to come in. And I think that's just fascinating. And I think he's opened up a lot of things for guys like Christian Brown and Jalen Wilson, and his ability to just make an impact and elevate everyone else on the team, I think, has been second to none. And just him as a personality, too. I think he's one of the more dynamic personalities Bill Self has had. I think you look at guys like Devontae Graham, who are just great human beings, and Ochai Agbaji, too, who are great human beings. But in terms of the personality of them on the basketball floor, I'm struggling to think of someone that has that same sort of pizzazz or the showman aspect to it, just because that's not necessarily who Bill Self is. He's all about the grinders, right? So I think that Remy Martin's rise has been incredible. I think he's fun to watch. I think that he does things and he keeps you on the edge of your seat. You don't know what's going to happen next, which I think is what allows this KU team to be so good, is because they're just kind of unpredictable.
You touched on like 3, 4, 5 different reasons that all kind of come up to the same thing for me, which is that I have enjoyed watching Remy Martin just about as much as I've enjoyed watching anybody play basketball for Kansas over the last like 5 or 10 years. I'm not saying it's the hottest run or that he's the best player, but in terms of just I sit down and watch Remy Martin and I smile because of all of those things, and probably some other ones also, like the speed at which it feels like he is always moving at. Even in the post-game celebrations, it seems like he's got like a turbo button that nobody else has. The elements that he brings, and again, like you mentioned, still coming off of the bench, that brings a jolt. I am absolutely smitten with watching Remy Martin be a part of this team. And like you said, who knows how far they make it without him, but it's certainly not New Orleans, and it's probably not Chicago. So whenever you look at here on out, what do you think is fair to expect? Like we're beyond fluke territory, right?
No, yeah, this is who he is. And I think it's interesting. What you mentioned there, I think, is spot on, that KU isn't here without him. And I don't think that Ochai goes on this run to some degree without a little bit of Remy Martin. I wrote about it while we were in Chicago. We got some breakout sessions where you can get some kind of one-on-one time with players. And I talked to Ochai for a little bit, and he brought up the fact that Remy instilled some confidence in everybody on the team from the day he stepped on campus in terms of his personality. And he's kind of gassing up his teammates from the first scrimmage in front of grade school kids back in the summer, back before anything actually meant anything. Like, he's been the same person throughout. And I think that energy, that belief in himself, and the belief that, hey, you know, you can go be the best player you can be. You hear football coaches say it a lot. Go be the best version of yourself that you can be. And that's what Remy Martin really pushed these guys to be. And I think that's a huge reason why a lot of these players have played so well, is because there's been a certain level of confidence that has come with Remy Martin on the court, off the court. And so expectation-wise, I think you just got to expect him to be himself. I don't think that he's going to all of a sudden change now that they're in the Final Four. I think he's going to continue to do what he does. And I think it's interesting, too, that KU as a team played very tight against Miami.
Yeah.
And I felt like one of the only players that wasn't super tight was Remy Martin. And I think that's going to be huge in an environment like Saturday against Villanova. You're the only game on TV. Everyone is watching. You're in a football stadium. It's going to feel cavernous in there. And you're going to need someone that's going to be able to settle things down. And even though Remy Martin is not someone that you think of as settling, right, watching him play, he's someone that can help provide some of that confidence to other players on the floor to be able to play their game. So I think that's what KU really needs from him this weekend. They don't need him to go off for 30 points. They've got other guys that can help do that. They need Remy Martin to help elevate everyone else to be able to play at their best.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I hope that we see some version of that, because you're right. He's not the stereotypical calming presence, but it's when you're in a situation you don't know what to expect, and you look over and the flight attendant isn't freaking out because of the turbulence. Like, oh, okay, all right, they're cool in this situation. I should also relax a little bit. Remy Martin, flight attendant. There you go. That's probably a new one.
I like that.
I think I own that one. I don't think anyone's going to try to take it from me either. You mentioned the tightness though in the first half against Miami, and I'm just kind of interested in the last really month of Ochai Agbaji, where you have, senior night he couldn't buy a bucket, and you've had better moments in the Big 12 tournament and also some slower stretches. He's not been like some disaster or anything. I don't mean to say that, to infer that he has been, but what have you seen watching him as closely as you have been as he ended out the regular season, went through the Big 12 tournament, now all the way to the Final Four here? What's the Ochai Agbaji story in your mind?
I think it's very similar to what you see almost sometimes, and I'm obviously a Golden State Warriors fan, so I may be partial to this comparison, but the gravity that Steph Curry plays with, I think you see that with Ochai, where Ochai has been so good for most of the season, right? And you look at what he's able to do kind of during the regular season where, I think he shoots, a little bit over 40% from three. He was the catalyst for KU for most of the regular season, and opposing teams took note of that. And especially after that Texas Tech game when he goes off for the 30-plus points, I think opposing teams finally said, all right, you want to know what? We're tired of this. Ochai, you're a streaky shooter. We're just going to force you to not beat us. And we're going to make DeJuan Harris, Jalen Wilson, Christian Brown. And this was all before they had Remy Martin. So I think teams have really honed in on Ochai. And I think what's happened is as time has gone on, I think pressure to some degree has started to mount, where Ochai knows, hey, I'm helping other guys get open. Sometimes defenses are playing 4-on-4 because the other guy just does not care about what's going on. But at the same time, when Ochai does get open, all of a sudden it's, oh my gosh, this is my open shot. I need to convert. And that's when I think some of that mental pressure can come. And so I think Ochai's great at handling that. Obviously, I think the way that he speaks about it is very nuanced, and that he knows that he's got teammates that can help him and that he's just got to go out there and play his game and he's not thinking. But I think in general for him, so much attention is being paid to him that allows other guys to go off and have these really strong runs where, Jalen Wilson, second leading scorer in conference play. Christian Brown's been really good in March. And so I think overall it's all super nuanced with Ochai, where even if he's not putting up those 20-point games that he was during the regular season, during the NCAA tournament, he's averaging like 12 points per game, which is kind of crazy. And so you look at what other guys are able to do, though, right? Remy Martin's helped out there, Christian Brown, Jalen Wilson. I think overall it's allowed KU to be more balanced, which at times this season KU is really relying on Ochai. And now I think it's kind of that point in the season where it's time for maybe some of those other guys to help take some of that scoring load off of Ochai. And maybe one of these final two games, maybe that's Ochai's time to go get 30 again. Like, I think KU's going to need him to play well, but I think in general, the Ochai conversation has to be super nuanced because there's so much attention being paid to him that it's hard to really even look at his stats in the NCAA tournament and say he's having a really bad tournament.
Right. Well, so you got me thinking now about, again, the cavernous football stadium that's going to be hosting the relatively tiny court that's going to be in the middle of all of this. The sight lines being one thing, the pressure of being the only game on TV being the other. I'm thinking back to Miami again, and there are even moments where Christian Brown, who I don't terribly think of as a scared basketball player, but he was passing up shots that I think almost every KU fan would have wanted him to take there. Is there a world in your mind where you're genuinely worried about what this team might look like in that environment, or is there something that Bill Self can do, something that the team can do outside of Remy Martin, the flight attendant, to prevent that from happening once they do hit the biggest stage?
I think it's very different because I think when you look at the Elite Eight, you're in the same type of situation. You're the only game on TV, and you're playing for the opportunity to come here and spend the week in New Orleans, right? They got here Wednesday. They have Thursday, they have Friday, they have all day Saturday to kind of take in New Orleans, have this fun time. Even if they're not going to be going on Bourbon Street, it's still fun to go be with your teammates on the road. And so I think that there's pressure to get to this point. And I think Bill Self has talked about this too, that once you get to this point, you can go just play free and go let it happen. And I think that 2018 team, if you want to go back, basically the first 4 minutes of the game, it was kind of even. And then Villanova just went nuclear mode. And nobody in the country was going to beat Villanova. And nobody in the country did beat Villanova that weekend. So I think you look at it for KU, and it's like, hey, go play. It doesn't, if you lose, okay, you went to the Final Four. That is a lifetime memory. And I think for a team like this that can play tight, you saw it the final week of the season, you saw it in the Elite Eight, they can play tight. But I think this is a different situation now. You've made it here. Yes, you want to go play for the national title, and yes, this team has that aspiration, and they've certainly vocalized that. But at the end of the day, you've turned this season into something special, and I think that can bring some sort of calmness, too, where it's like, hey, you've got nothing to lose. Go play. Whereas in the Elite Eight, it's you have everything to lose, because if you lose to Miami, you just lost to Miami. Miami basketball.
Right.
You're not going to the Final Four. Things opened up for you in the bracket, and you let it slip. It's VCU all over again.
You lost to Charlie Moore.
Yeah, literally. The guy that, didn't get run off, but, wasn't going to come back, all of a sudden beat you, right? So it's just a different dynamic here now where they can kind of go play free. And when we've seen this team play free against Texas Tech, I think in the second half against Miami, there isn't a team in the country better. So it's a question of, can they do that for the full 40 minutes?
How important is David McCormick in that equation? And also, I guess, let's just go bigs, which, effectively ends at 2, I think, right, of David McCormick and Mitch Lightfoot. The role that those guys have, but also against Miami, I feel like David McCormick got a moment against Miami where he was at the end doing a full Hulk pose to the sideline. That felt like a turning point there, and also it might have been a release of some frustration that he's almost certainly had to have over the course of this year, not just in his play being inconsistent. We've talked about the mental side, but also like that foot is a problem, it seems like. I mean, that he is battling through. So tell me where I should be at on David McCormick at this point, and if you have any belief anywhere in your heart that the moment that we saw against Miami and the perhaps turning point there would have any reason to be a consistent positive for a guy who consistency has been an issue for.
Yeah, and I'm not. I've watched Dave McCormick this season. I'm not going to. I can't tell you what he's going to look like on Saturday.
Right.
I'm not going to even guess what McCormick is going to show up. But what I can say is I think that him against those Villanova big men is going to be crucial, because I think you look at their size inside. They don't have anyone that's over 6'9", and McCormick's 6'10", and a total load inside, and his offensive rebounding has been huge. And so I look at that matchup there where McCormick against some of those big men, right, Jermaine Samuels and Eric Dixon being kind of the main two from Villanova, and thinking, okay, can he stay in the paint? Because how many times this season have you seen him go against someone from, Oklahoma and Tanner Groves, or even the Waterberg from Miami, where they space the floor and create more room inside and get McCormick away from the paint? That's what I'm more worried about than McCormick's necessarily his post presence. It's defensively, can he stay in the paint and really help out there? And then on the other end, can he go get offensive rebounds? Because that's when he's at his best. It's not when he's getting these post touches, because he's not super efficient. But it's when he's getting those offensive rebounds and those putbacks and those and ones and getting to the free throw line. That's when he's at his best. And so I think that's when Mitch Lightfoot comes into play too, because I could argue right now that Mitch Lightfoot's playing the best basketball of his Kansas career right now.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that knee injury against Texas Tech, he was going to be all tournament team at the Big 12 tournament. That's how good he was playing. And so I think you look at those two guys right now, they could split minutes. They could go 20 and 20, and I think you'd feel pretty good about that, which is it's weird to say considering that Mitch Lightfoot is as old as I am, and we started college at the same year.
Right.
That's how, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
But I think in general, that big spot's going to be huge. And I think that the ability for KU to stay on its feet against Villanova, because the Villanova offense is so cringy to watch, where it's three-point line, free throw line. That's where they score their points. I think they rank outside the 300s. Yeah, they rank in like the 300s in terms of two-point scoring. So if they aren't getting to the free throw line, they've got to go berserk from three. And I think for this KU team, they've been pretty good at holding guys, from beyond that three-point arc with that length that they do have. So I think that for the ability for KU to hold down the paint, both on the defensive glass and offensive glass, is going to be huge.
Well, so let's dive in a little more to Villanova there, because they also have played with a pretty short rotation as far as smarter people have said than me, and then obviously took a hit on that rotation last weekend. So whenever you look at three-point and free throw cringe offense is going to be the only way I refer to or think about them for the rest of this week. But you go cringy three-point and free throw line offense. You have a shallow rotation brought out even more shallow. You don't have much size inside. These seem like a bunch of things that should really play in Kansas's favor, but also you talk about maybe a hot three-point shooting team, and I imagine KU fans get PTSD.
100%. And you also have to consider who their coach is, right? Jay Wright, I would argue that Jay Wright and Bill Self are the two best coaches in college basketball in terms of pure coaching ability, not taking anything with recruiting into account, right? I think these two guys, in terms of getting their teams to play at a level and being able to coach them to their strengths, is huge. I think I'm a huge Jay Wright fan, and I think he has his work cut out for him this week, right? You lose Justin Moore, who averaged just under 15 points a game, and they don't have, they've got six guys basically that average more than 2 points a game, and you just lost one of them. That's huge. And so now you're looking at Colin Gillespie, who, funny enough, is the Mitch Lightfoot of Villanova. He played as a freshman in 2018 against KU. Now you're looking at him. He's already their leading scorer. He's going to have to go off. And so I think for me the matchup there is going to be DeJuan Harris on him, because DeJuan Harris is about the same size as Gillespie, and DeJuan Harris has that insane wingspan that is longer than Zach Clemens is. So I think that's going to be the matchup for me that I look at. But for KU, it's can you keep those other guys from going, like I said earlier, berserk from three, because that's how they'll make it up, right? KU is not necessarily a great three-point shooting team. What they do really well is score in transition, score inside the arc, and score off second-chance points. Well, on the other side, the way you can beat that is by making a bunch of threes. Yeah. And so I think that three-point arc for me is like, first things first, like, can KU defend the three-point arc? Because if so, yeah, I really like KU's chances because you got the size inside, and the discipline is going to be the big thing because those shot fakes is very similar to what Miami did. For the folks that watched the first half of the Miami game, KU got caught up in the air a bunch on some shot fakes where that's what Villanova does. They pump fake, you jump, they get fouled, they go to the line, they knock down 81% of them. You know, I think they're like the best in college basketball history, maybe, in terms of knocking down free throws. I need to check that, but I know they're at least number one this season. So I think in general, you know, the matchup is super fascinating considering the fact they're losing basically Christian Brown is how I'd compare it, right? If Colin Gillespie is their Ochai, they're losing Christian Brown for the game. So how can you make up with that? And they already aren't very deep. So I think Jay Wright has his work cut out for him, but that team is just so well coached that I'm definitely not going to walk in there, you know, Saturday thinking, all right, KU's going to the final.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
I think that it's really easy to talk about shooting and just buckets falling. I think it's a lot harder to talk about defense whenever we just are talking about basketball, generally speaking. And you mentioned KU's defense a little bit. We talked about it late in the regular season and some of the stuff that some of the ways that this team has not had a lot of Bill Self's greatest defensive hits on it. And then you have this run here in the tournament. I don't know if this comes back to Remy Martin in some way or not again, although I feel like he's been maybe better than was advertised defensively. I don't know if that's even maybe I was reading the wrong ads. I don't know. But whenever you look at KU defensively right now, as opposed to where they were a month ago, beginning of the season, expectations and juxtaposing them against KU defenses of years past, what's that evolution been like?
I think it's been incredible to watch. I think in general this team, and we talked about it, I think before the tournament maybe, where at times this season they've just not been very locked in terms of the switching defense that KU runs nowadays, which is super modern, where you play four wings or four guards and you switch four of those guys and you have your big man kind of play different style. Since that loss, you know, at TCU there that first week of March, only one team has scored over 1.0 points per possession, which, you know, for folks that aren't super nuanced with that, right? Like, that's basically average. That's your average offense. And so only one offense has been average against KU, and it's Creighton. And Creighton, you know, made 12 threes in that game.
Yeah.
So I think you're looking at KU's defense. All of a sudden, you've got players that can defend, right? Christian Brown is a good defender. Ochai can be a good defender. Dave can be a good defender. I think Jalen Wilson's the one guy that's been picked on at times this postseason because I think his feet maybe can be a little bit slow at times. I think the athleticism maybe isn't the same level of Ochai or Christian. But outside of him, everyone else has been super locked in. And even someone like Remy Martin, who is not going to set the world alight. He is not your Marcus Garrett. He's not going to go lock up the best player. But if Remy is playing with intensity and energy on the defensive end, that all of a sudden makes things a lot easier on some of those other guys because you're not having to make up for Remy's mistakes, which I think in the first half of the season was happening. Because it's the first half of the season, and who really cares? Like, It's almost like the NBA thing, right, where you play so many games, and at times it's just kind of like, all right, you go through the motions. But now I think this is a team that has locked in and said, all right, it's time to defend. And since that loss at TCU, since Ochai stood up in the locker room and kind of, you know, basically said that loss wasn't going to define them, they have stood up and defended super well. And I think it's been a huge reason why they've been able to make it this far. Because if they're that defensive team of kind of, you know, late January, you know, mid-January, they are making it this far. Because then a Creighton would have gotten 80 points instead of 72, or, you know, Providence would have scored more, or Miami would have scored more. So I think in general, the team is more locked in defensively, and it's the reason why they've had such a strong run.
There's some pretty good analysis in there, but I kind of stopped listening whenever you made the NBA point because I just think it's kind of funny that the Golden State Warriors fan all of a sudden picks this to be the NBA regular season, that he's not that concerned about the early season wins or the final win-loss standings. It's just, my basketball team hasn't played a meaningful regular season game in a little bit because they locked up that one spot so early on. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, I mean, I wish I could point back to Christmas, but the Warriors have absolutely just fallen off a cliff. I don't even know what's going on there.
Yeah, and also if I'm trying to claim my my Larry O'Brien trophy in late March, that's probably not a great sign for me personally anyway.
No.
You've
it's a little early.
Your team has a gold tag on the back of the jacket, so the back of the jersey. So you get that one over me. Michael, thank you very much for your time here tonight. Feel free to go hit Bourbon Street with Lebo. I'll make sure you guys have each other's numbers and just I don't know, do a Twitter live video or something at some point, and just let me know that you guys are having a good, responsible time down there.
I love it. We'll pull a J.R. Smith and go on Instagram Live.
Oh, my goodness. Lebo shirtless J.R. Smithing it is exactly what the internet needs. Thank you, Michael.
Yep, thanks. Appreciate it.
Michael Swain of Fog.net, 24/7 Sports. He does such a good job. I wait till people go on hold and then ideally hang up before I talk about how good I think they are at giving answers to my okay radio questions. Swain's among the best. If you care about Kansas basketball, football, anything, fog.net, PHOG.net, 247sports.com, part of that whole network there. You can follow him on Twitter at mswain247 as well. Just does a absolutely fantastic job covering all things Kansas.
Much better than that last guy. Certainly better taste than NBA teams.
I was going to say the last guy, his taste in NBA teams, one of the only redeeming qualities. And to this point, Swain hasn't tried to force us to talk about Halsey for 20 minutes, you know?
It's true.
I'm saying Scott might have been the Alex Smith of Fog.net, you know? Nothing wrong with being the Alex Smith of Fog.net.
I think I was going to say he might have been the Elvis Gerbach.
All of our coverage from New Orleans, all of our coverage talking about the Final Four, all of our coverage coming soon, coming tomorrow from Radio Row when the aforementioned Todd Lebo will be out there and rubbing elbows with the guests along Radio Row at the Final Four. Is brought to you by a parade of our absolute favorite sponsors. Thanks to Worth Harley-Davidson. Check out the full line of 2022 motorcycles right now at Worth Harley-Davidson. Only at Worth. You decide on 0% financing or up to 125% of appraised value for your trade. Online at worthharleydavidson.com or in person, I-29 south of the airport. Also brought to you by Amini's. If you want it for your home, get to Amini's. New patio and outdoor furniture have arrived. Area rugs, pool tables, shuffleboard, golden tee golf, and pinball for under $100 a month. Indoors and outdoors, you want it. Amini's has it. 105th and Metcalf or aminis.com. That's AMINIS.com. Also, thanks to Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park. Your next Volvo is online at premiervolvocarsoverlandpark.com or shop in person at 79th and Metcalf in Overland Park. Also, Premier Mazda of Kansas City. See all the new and certified pre-owned Mazdas just south of 135th and State Line or online at premiermazdakc.com. Also brought to you by Core First Bank. A winning game plan doesn't just magically happen. Whether we're talking basketball or your own business, you need a team you can count on. For more details, go to corefirstbank.com/lend today. Core First Bank, member FDIC. And finally, last but not least, brought to you by Hy-Vee. At Hy-Vee, you can get fresh, made-to-order breakfast every day. Time out in the ad. It has been a long time since I had breakfast at Hy-Vee. It was pre-pandemic. I'm thinking back to a remote. Dustin Colquitt was... No, that wasn't that. No, some other time. I was at Hy-Vee for a breakfast. I'm now realizing it's not even what I was thinking of it being. Hy-Vee, let me tell you this. Hy-Vee breakfast, I don't even remember what got me there because that didn't matter. What did matter was Hy-Vee's breakfast because that's the thing that I remember from that. And whatever that day was, whatever reason I was in a Hy-Vee in the morning, I cannot remember. But I do remember, though, that sandwich has stuck with me for years. So go ahead and follow up on that recommendation and go enjoy breakfast every day at Hy-Vee. Hy-Vee's menu offers great variety for groups of all ages, plus all April long, kids eat free with the purchase of an adult breakfast entree at all Kansas City area Hy-Vee locations. That's a good deal right there. Thanks to all of our sponsors for bringing you all of the content coming from Radio Row in New Orleans. We will take a break. Thanks again to Michael Swain as well, fog.net. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Maybe we talk a little basketball. Maybe a little something else. Maybe some other head coach will retire mid-segment. I don't know. Has anybody else retired lately? Rudy, any breaking news of the last 45 minutes? I haven't really been on Twitter.
A coach did retire. I just don't recognize the name. Andrew Ride?
I don't think that's right. That's one of those things. It's like, hey, everybody, welcome to Inside the Bit.
Yeah, that was a bit.
Andy Reid is not retiring.
Well, I never said Andy Reid. I said Andrew.
But Bruce Arians did actually retire from coaching. Todd Bowles is actually the new head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's the thing that we're referring to, just so everybody, so no one turned on the radio just now and went, excuse me? Bruce Arians is moving to the front office in Tampa. Todd Bowles is taking over there. That was the news of the first segment. We'll see if we get more fun news over the course of the break. More AES right after this.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Attention investors. How would you like to collect a government-backed check with secure double-digit returns in a
rest to the bench. Celso Borges.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Steve McCarluke?
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
My microphone wasn't on.
I'm pretty sure it's on.
It is now.
I hear you talking.
Was it on when I yelled your name?
I think so.
Earlier it wasn't.
It definitely was not.
It was not on this time either?
No.
Gaslighting
I hit
me.
it, but it definitely did not turn on.
Rudy has had some sticky buttons over there so far tonight. Playing with fire, trying to watch the Nuggets. Buttons just not working.
That game's been over for a while.
Give me the you told me during the break something happened with the Nuggets. When you talk about the Nuggets off air, I just turned my brain off.
I mean, which part?
Oh, any of it. All of it.
I mean, they won.
Welcome inside the bit, everybody. So during the last break, Rudy was giving me a Nuggets update, and as we got through maybe 60% of that conversation, I said, you know what? Let's actually talk about this whenever we come back. I'm just going to let you reset it up again. But I think Rudy got so rattled by the return from break being out of sorts that Rudy forgot the bit that we were going to do. So I'm going to clap, and we're going to restart here. We're going to restart this scene in 3, 2.
To be fair, I knew what the bit was. I just thought you were going to build up to the bit.
So, Rudy, I saw the Denver Nuggets won the basketball game that they were playing. Who were they playing? Who were the Nuggets playing?
The Indiana Pacers.
Indianapolis Pacers.
Do you know Lance Stevenson's still playing basketball?
I figured he was a Pacer if he was. I just sort of assumed he was a Pacer.
I mean, that's fair. I saw him and I was like, don't remember Lance Stevenson still playing basketball.
You get a lot of those guys. You just glance up at ESPN anytime in March, April, May, and just go, oh, did you know that this guy's still playing for this team? Or this guy got a haircut? A lot of new ones. No, but you were saying something about Jokic during the break, and I was going to allow you to bring this to the table here.
ESPN did a day or two ago. I've actually got it. I sent it in the WhatsApp.
No, I didn't. I didn't click that. I saw it was Jokic propaganda.
That's fair.
What did he do tonight?
So tonight he ended up with, it was 37 points, 14 rebounds, 9 assists, if I remember right. Or maybe it was 13 rebounds, 9 assists. Basically, he came up 1 assist short of another triple-double, which he currently leads the NBA in. So,
well, that's pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay, yes.
He gets my second place MVP vote.
Yeah. So you made that little comment, at which point I just simply said, I think he's got most of the of the voters' MVP votes.
Yeah, so
first place votes. So basically,
yeah.
So ESPN did I guess a straw hat poll, right? I guess what they call it. They pulled 100 media members.
It's just a straw poll, right?
Straw poll. Yeah, it is just
I don't think there's a hat involved.
I mean, you could wear a hat. When
you put all of the votes in a hat.
Yeah.
And then you pull them back out of the hat.
Probably. I think that's how it goes. But so they pulled 100 league media members, and now just league media members, could be anybody. You have to assume, though, a decent amount of them are NBA MVP or awards voters.
Sure.
It came back. Jokic got 62 first place votes.
Wow.
Joel Embiid got 29. Giannis got 9. And then in 4th and 5th, no first place votes, but they did they did rack up some points. John Morant 4th and Jason Tatum 5th.
It's just crazy because you said all those names, and none of those players are on the best team in the NBA, which just sort of feels like it might be relevant to how good a player is. Like Jokic, I'm sure would have great stats in the Kansas City YMCA League also, but that's not what we're talking about here.
I mean, you don't have to attack Jokic. I mean, I think we can all agree.
Jason Tatum being the most valuable dude in the Boston.
Devin Booker probably should be on the top 5.
Devin Booker is the most valuable player in basketball because to have value, your team should probably be good. Ever think about that one, sheeple?
I mean, our team is good. We're just very, very, very hurt.
Yeah, and I'm very, very hurt watching Devin Booker not get any GD respect.
It is surprising that he's nowhere
been doing
in the
it
top
without
5.
Chris Paul. Here's you know what? Okay. Welcome inside the bit, everyone, for the 3rd or 4th time tonight. Most of that yelling was not genuinely from a place of anger.
So much of it was from anger.
No, it really wasn't. But this is going to be. Here's what makes me mad, okay? Here's what genuinely makes me mad about the Devin Booker # discourse. I could slap Chris Rock. I'm so mad.
Well, don't do that. We might have to take away your awards, and now you're no longer the 4th best host in Kansas City.
Oh, am I willing to throw it all away for that? I don't know.
Are
Good question.
you, Josh?
Good question. I don't know.
Think of the children.
I don't know.
Think of all the kids watching.
Here's what makes me mad. So
on the Twitch,
Devin Booker has been awesome and really fun as a basketball player since pretty much the moment he stepped into the league.
I was going to say since he was probably 5.
Also completely fair. Devin Booker has been the coolest basketball player on the floor since he stepped on a basketball court, even if he was stepping on the court with his dad. I'm giving Devin the edge Basically out of the womb.
Devin is taking Melvin down. No problem.
I'm saying at like age 4 that was happening. I'm saying that Devin Booker was dribbling between his legs whenever his legs weren't long enough for the basketball to reasonably have been able to go between the two of them. But at the NBA level, he is hit with the criticism of his stats are great, he's fun, but his teams never win anything, which was fair. Those Suns teams were terrible. I remember, I watched some of them.
Bubble's champion, though. Can never take that away.
You get to the bubble, and you get a little bit of like, hey, hold on, this Suns team might actually not suck. Devin Booker, fun and good. Okay, well, let's see him win something. So they start winning.
Do it not in the bubble.
They start winning. They make it all the way to the finals last year. But then you have people going, well, I mean, look, that team was obviously, like, that was a really good basketball team that made a nice run. Probably kind of fluky, though. Spoiler alert. Nope!
Yeah, we'll see what happens in the playoffs.
Nice run there, but is Devin Booker even the most valuable player on his own team? I mean, what were they before Chris Paul? Call me
DeAndre Ayton.
Call me when Devin Booker wins something. Turned into call me when Devin Booker is even the most valuable player on his own team.
Can't forget about Dragon Bender.
Turned into, let's see if he can do it without Chris Paul. Chris Paul?
Bender.
Our timing has been really bad on this bit.
Yeah, not great.
Chris Paul gets hurt. Not only hurt through the playoffs, when the Suns kept winning and advancing while Chris Paul was being guarded like DeJuan Harris. Not a joke. He was not being guarded behind the three-point line because his arm didn't work. He gets hurt again this year, and the Suns keep winning. They just keep winning. Devin Booker leading the team. He's still excellent. Suns lock up the 1 seed with 1 million games left in this season. They keep beating good teams despite not having any real reason to be playing these games on any sort of meaningful level. Chris Paul comes back, and it's who's the best valuable player on this team? Devin Booker's great, but it's always that. The words Devin Booker is great are always followed by, but I mean, I don't understand. I don't know what else he's supposed to do other than be 7 feet tall. Is that just it? Like, is it Jason Tatum thing, actually? I'm glad Beards isn't here anymore. I'm not glad he's dead. I'm just glad he's not here right now on the show. I understand that Jason Tatum is very good. I can't have the Jason Tatum conversation. I'm not willing to. But it's like, okay, here are your MVP candidates. Tall freak of an athlete who also hits threes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, fine. Jokic and Embiid and Giannis and Durant are literal aliens. I'm not sure they were born on this planet. They're from outer space. I understand. They're all built like little kids drawn cartoons. They're all built like 2K characters if you had all of the attribute points in the world to expand their skill sets. I get it. But what else can Devin Booker do? If he's not an all-NBA first-team guard, my head's going to pop like a grape. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. What, Rudy?
Oh, I mean, nothing. I'm just looking at the numbers. You say, what more can Devin Booker do? I mean, Jokic is averaging like 8 more rebounds and 4 more assists a game. And Booker's only averaging like 0.2 points per game more.
You know what Devin Booker's averaging?
26.5.
You know what Devin Booker's averaging?
26.5.
16 more wins!
Well, it's not really an average.
16 more wins this season!
It's cumulative. Struggling to say that word. Cumulative stats. Really struggling to say that word.
The only other team in basketball with more than 48 wins is the Memphis Grizzlies, who have 53. The Suns have 61. And their last 3 games, I think, haven't mattered at all. They're 61-14. The Grizzlies are 53-23. Nobody else's winning record starts with the 5.
Well, I mean, the Nuggets would if it wasn't for all the injuries.
And if Devin Booker was 7 feet tall, maybe he'd get an MVP vote.
Tell him to grow some.
He's even dating a famous Jenner, I think.
Yeah. Kendall.
Yep, one of those. You definitely almost had it at least once.
At least 50-50 shot.
Maybe this is me becoming an old man on the radio because I'm yelling about team wins and not knowing the names of the Jenners.
The other was with Travis Scott. I'm also like, one of those two is right.
No, one of them is definitely with Travis Scott.
Yes.
One of them is with Devin Booker.
I told you, like I said, one of those things that I was saying was definitely right. I knew it was a Tiger or Travis Scott. Just couldn't remember which one.
Devin Booker says he's enjoying life to the fullest. That's a quote with girlfriend Kendall Jenner.
Nailed it.
I've already forgotten which one is which. And I'm okay with that.
with Devin, Kendall's with Tyga.
Nope. No. I don't think Tyga's involved here.
He was, though, at one point. He definitely was involved at one point. He dated a Jenner.
Why don't you just keep my MVP's name out your effing mouth? How about that? How about that, everybody?
DeAndre Ayton?
We got to take a break just to see if I can get Rudy to come in front of a Facebook camera so I can slap him during the break.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app and 810W. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I got 2 nuggets. I'm happy.
Rudy got 2 nuggets, everybody.
I got my 2 nuggets
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
This is funny. This just popped up on my timeline. Entering tonight, these high-usage players have the best true shooting percentage in the clutch. Number 2, Chris Paul with a 67.3% true shooting percentage. That's pretty good.
It's very good.
Number 1, Devin Booker, 70.9%.
See, they're stealing votes from each other. That's the problem, Josh.
At least
Who's the most valuable player on the team? I don't know. Is it Chris Paul or Devin Booker? I can't vote for one because I don't know.
Might as well vote for Joel Embiid.
Well, Jokic.
I guess Monty Williams is going to get Coach of the Year this year for sure. That's something.
Is he, though?
As soon as we went to break, I almost started breaking into more of the take of, like, some of this I don't really care about. But also, I feel like Devin Booker should be, like, an international superstar.
How he's not one of the 5 vote getters is mind-blowing.
And even just like a top 10 player in the league just in terms of like general discourse, because he's also really fun to watch. And the Suns are fun to watch.
Yeah.
And instead I gotta watch Miami-Boston on ESPN, although Suns-Warriors is gonna be on after that. So if this game will start during the last hour of AES, and I might get even more heated. We'll see.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810.
than usual.
I'm currently just in need of a special teams coordinator. So if you know any thick special teams coordinators, send my way. I'm doing research.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Can we retroactively make Joe Judge the thick special teams coordinator?
Absolutely.
I don't think he's like outrageously thick, but
he's a thick boy.
Thick enough in a special teams coordinator that I know of.
Yeah. I forget. I think it's up. It's still hanging on the wall in the office. So I forget who the special teams coordinator, like who I picked. I'm sure it was somebody who I didn't like really know who it was.
Or it was Dave Tobe, because I think that I've given you the.
I think I went away from Chiefs since it was Andy Reid.
Was he the head coach?
Yeah, I think
sense.
so.
Yeah.
For some reason, I think I might have weirdly picked Rich Bisaccia.
That's not his name.
Isn't that his name?
Bisaccia.
Bisaccia.
That would have been the only other special. Is he in Green Bay now, I think?
And the thing is, like, I didn't know who he was when I made this list. But I know who he is now because he was the Raiders interim coach. I think that might have been who it was.
He is back with the he's with the Packers now. Okay, so this is a unofficial AES After Dark, perhaps. We've just got a lot of things that we can touch on from things that we haven't yet talked about this week and have some time to do it here tonight. So also, it's a good time to, if any of you in the various video chats just feel like being a real, there's a specific word that I can't find. You're like, not antagonist, but it starts with an A. An anarchist. Good Lord. Sorry, my brain freezes at 9 p.m., and that's the end for me.
Words are hard.
Words be bad. Words be hard. If anybody feels like being an anarchist in the chat, well, at that point, is an anarchist excited about being an anarchist if anarchy is being welcomed? Think about that one. Really let that sink in.
Philosophy.
I think I turned into Emmanuel Acho for about 5 seconds. Here's the question. Does an anarchist enjoy anarchy if anarchy is the system? Let that sink in. I'm Emmanuel Acho on FS1.
So you said that like Jerry Seinfeld.
What's the deal with anarchists? I've against my will, I have seen a lot of Emmanuel Acho clips. And so I've gotten, like he did the Lamar Jackson clip a couple weeks ago. Is it racial or is it ratio? Let that sink in. And I did let that sink in, and it really rocked me to my core. And he went to some like rushing to passing yards ratio or something really dumb.
The way you said rushing to passing, I thought you said Russia, and I was like, huh.
Is the problem with the rushing game or with the Russia game? Let that sink in. He did a real spin around the loop. Just I think over the pandemic, it was in like a 2-year span. Like he became like a superstar Oprah's book club to getting really corny really quickly.
Some people, man, just they didn't handle the pandemic well, right? Time alone, were by themselves. They just didn't handle it well.
To be fair, I do believe that he became like a national star who transcended sports. It doesn't make his sports takes good, though.
Nope.
And just his bit is so easy to parody because it is not very varied, you know? I'm sure you could parody me in some form and it would not be that difficult. But I'd like to think that's because this show has some very specific quirks, not because we just beat the same thing to death over and over again. Anyway, Rudy, I wanted to ask about Pokemon Legends Arceus. You dip back in.
Yeah, I dip in every now. I play still pretty frequently, I would say.
That's not really what I want to talk about. I just feel like the thing that we've beaten to death.
It's been a couple days, but, I play pretty frequently.
I think this show has range, and so I want you to tell me about the shinies you've caught in Legends, and then I'm going to talk about the Chiefs receivers and also why they should not run the football.
So, I've been catching a lot of green shinies lately.
Wow, tell me about it.
And the amount of green shinies. I'll say Cascoon is a good, or is it Silken? It's Cascoon, I'm pretty sure. It's a good green shiny. It's a nice shade of green, not like the puke shade of green or a bland shade of green.
And I like Ronald Jones. I think he's a good player. I think if he is going to be a first and second down back for this team, I think that makes a lot of sense. Have you been catching a lot of shinies every time you've been playing, or have you had a little drought?
No, it's definitely in a drought, so I think my game's broken.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Because the shinies just... Still trying to get one of those shiny starters and just haven't found them yet.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any. I don't even know. I don't even know if I have all the starters at this point. I guess maybe I got them all back from the professor at one point.
Yeah, I definitely have all like the starters. Once you get past the main part of the game, starters are very easy to find. The mass outbreaks, just no shinies yet.
And look, when they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire with their first round pick, no less, he was supposed to be different. He was supposed to be a third round. He was supposed to be a third down back. Just to catch passes. He's supposed to basically be a wide receiver. So it didn't matter that they didn't draft a wide receiver, which is what they should have done. I'm glad I'm finally not scared to say that on this radio show. What type of Pokeballs do you use the most? There's like the flying type, and then the heavy ones, and like the standard, and different evolutions of all of those.
Yeah. So for shinies, I prefer the jet ball. It's
I think the whole flying like trio are probably my favorite.
But
I like the range.
I use the heavy ball obviously very often to find for close combat. Right, stun them, run behind them, hit them in the back with a heavy ball.
But can Clyde Edwards-Helaire be the third down back for this team if they didn't trust him to be the third down back ahead of Darrell Williams? Ronald Jones isn't going to be that guy. Ronald Jones is the first and second down back. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been the first and second down back while being a first round back. How can you put that asset into a running back who's going to be a limited player for you? I don't understand it.
He's basically a wide receiver. But he's certainly no jet ball.
So what's your team right now? Like your 1 through 6?
So right.
What are your absolute locks and stay in your rotation?
So right now
who's your ace? There we go. It's a rotation.
Yeah,
it's like a pitching rotation.
Yeah, right now it's different because I'm trying to level up a bunch because in the new update they have like this Path to Solitude where like you go in with only a Rowlet and you have to win, and that gives a little check mark on your Rowlet, and then you do it with a Dartrix. And so in theory,
I'm attempted to do that with my Bidoof. It hasn't worked yet.
In theory, you do it with all of them. You need them up very, very high level. So it's my I had my Decidueye, but it got to a level 100, so I moved out for my Arcanine because it's like 90 something, and then it's Rowlet, Oshawott, Cyndaquil, Bidoof, and Starly because I'm just raising their levels, and then once their levels get high enough, I'll go challenge that with those 5. And then see, here's the trick: you do it with the first evolution. That way, when you're ready to do their second evolution, you don't have to train up the second evolution. You just evolve, and it's good to go.
Oh, that's interesting.
For
the Solitude thing?
Yeah, that way instead of like raising the level of a Rowlet and then raising the level of a Dartrix, you just evolve your Rowlet to a Dartrix, and boom.
Speaking of the range this show has and not repeating topics over and over again, I do apologize for the beeping noises you may have heard. Those are my diabetes things beeping at me. I know I haven't revealed this on the radio before, and we don't talk about it very often. One of the downsides of the Omnipod, which I've really been enjoying having,
we podcast on Omni Studio,
is that it beeps at me. That's a pretty good joke. That's only really funny to me because the platform we use to podcast is called Omni, OMNY. So we do Omni pods, but the wearable insulin pump that I've been using this month is called an Omnipod.
I was proud of myself.
That's a pretty good joke. So anyway, I think it would be very difficult to parody. I don't really know that anybody could find a way to do that in a way that would make sense. Even attempting that would be dumber than drafting a running back in the first round, or not using jet balls in Pokemon Legends Arceus.
I run out of them fast. So sometimes I just gotta go to Pokeballs because it's like you can burn through those other ones.
Yeah.
And I basically have an unlimited supply of Pokeballs at this point.
Here's my new topic for you. You familiar with the upcoming film Morbius? It is a Marvel-adjacent movie made by the studio that did like Venom and some of it's Sony, right?
It's Marvel.
It's This actually is a new thing because there's news on Morbius.
Yes.
So Jared Leto is playing
Morbius. Is a Marvel character. He is part of the Spider-Verse, which Sony owns. All of the Spider-Verse, every character of the Spider-Verse. It's literally like they have the rights to like 400 characters.
Oh, really?
Every character that's associated with Spider-Man, Morbius is a common Spider-Man villain, along with Venom.
There's a trailer on my TV right now for it.
Yeah.
So I believe that he's
obviously not selling those rights back as much as Marvel has tried because it is just a cash cow for them.
So it's Dr. Something Morbius. He turns into basically a vampire of some sort.
Fun fact, Jason, the Drake told me this. So he is technically not a vampire. He is a living dead because back in the day, there was I forget what the government organization was, but basically it was TV ratings, PG-13, all that stuff. It was that for comics. So you had to send it to this government agency, and they would then approve if you could sell this comic. Well, they made a law, no vampire stories. Vampires are illegal to make comics about vampires. So Morbius was their workaround because he's not actually a vampire, because he's not dead. He just has all the same strengths and weaknesses of a vampire, but because he's not actually dead, he is not technically a vampire. And that's how Morbius came to be.
Go ahead and find Josh Reads the Internet, because this is new to me, and I'm already on a Wikipedia page about the Comics Code Authority, and I now want to know everything about that, and I will eventually give you the Morbius news. That is a great tidbit. Here's more.
And now, Josh Reads the Internet.
Like the previous code, the CCA prohibited the presentation of, quote, policemen, judges, government officials, and respected institutions in such a way as to create disrespect for established authority, unquote. But it added the requirements that quote, in every instance, good shall triumph over evil, unquote, and discouraged, quote, instances of law enforcement officers dying as a result of a criminal's activities, unquote. Specific restrictions were placed on the portrayal of kidnapping and concealed weapons. Depictions of, quote, excessive violence, unquote, were forbidden, as were, quote, lurid, unsavory, gruesome illustrations, unquote. Vampires, werewolves, ghouls, and zombies, the staple monsters of the horror comics, were banned outright. And in addition, comics could not use the words horror or terror in their titles. The use of the word crime was subject to numerous restrictions. I'm doing the thing again today where I'm reading without reading ahead, so I do see that there is something here that's going to get a little lurid, perhaps. Where the previous code had condemned the publication of, quote, sexy, wanton comics, the CCA was much more precise. Depictions of, quote, sex perversion, quote, sexual abnormalities, and, quote, illicit sex relations, as well as seduction, and some other not funny things, were specifically forbidden, including masochism, specifically forbidden. In words echoing the Hollywood production code, love stories were enjoined to emphasize the, quote, sanctity of marriage, unquote, and those portraying scenes of passion were advised to avoid stimulating, quote, lower and baser emotions. What year was this? The CCA was formed in 1948, which I guess makes sense. You couldn't use the words horror or terror. I had no idea this existed. This is kind of incredible and kind of shocking. You got a little stamp that said approved by the Comics Code Authority. There is more here that I would like to read, but I think I've absolutely pushed the edge of is this interesting to listen to or not. I do think it's funny that in the new Batman movie, they got a PG-13 rating. I don't want to spoil it. You still haven't seen the new Batman movie, right, Rudy?
I have not.
It was really good. I really enjoyed it. There are some unsavory things that happen in this PG-13 film. Although the CCA had no official control over the comics publishers, most distributors refused to carry comics which did not carry the seal. Huh. Okay, so apparently Morbius was a workaround to some of that.
It was.
Because vampires, werewolves, ghouls, and zombies were banned outright.
They were bad.
Could not use the words horror or terror.
Because you terrorize the kids.
And you cannot have sexy comics.
Wouldn't that be terrible?
You can't. The phrase respected institutions also got to set off alarm bells in your head, right? You just got to be like, wait a second. That's pretty vague. How vague is this going to include? Who's in charge of this? What year is it? Oh, no. Anyway, okay. Thank you for that detour, Rudy. That was me reading the internet. What I was going to present here is, Rudy, do you have any information so far about Morbius's early Rotten Tomatoes rating?
Oh, no. I
Okay.
know it obviously comes out tomorrow night. I most likely won't, but I was thinking maybe seeing it on Friday, but like Friday morning.
We'll see
But
if this
most
moves the
likely I
needle,
won't.
because you know that
I'm going to go watch it in theater. That's almost a given.
you
It's
haven't
just-
seen Batman yet, though.
Yeah, but it's not Marvel.
No, but it is good.
Yeah, and it'll be.
This is
on,
barely
and
Marvel.
It's going to be on HBO Max in like 3 weeks, probably. I think it's 45 days from its release
Is
date.
it?
It's going to end up on HBO Max. I'll
Okay.
probably wait till then.
That's not bad. It's good to see on big screen, but also it's 3 hours long, and a pause button wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
But there's the.
I'm just a sucker for the Marvel stuff. Here's the thing. I know I have a problem, but I understand.
Have you seen Venom 2?
Yeah, it's all in theaters.
The second one?
Yes. Let there
Okay.
be carnage.
Yeah, all right.
'Cause I have a problem.
You do have, yeah, okay. Is
I'll
there a
watch-
Marvel thing you've missed? You haven't seen all the TV. I feel like you missed one of the TV shows or something.
Nah. I mean,
You're
some
caught
of
up on
the like
everything?
early TV shows, right? Like I didn't watch Inhumans back in like 2012.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Oh, I've seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I watched all of that.
There's a lot of that, right?
It was a good show. Yeah, I watched it as it was coming out, like on Hulu. So like it wasn't like I didn't like binge watch that show. I
right.
started watching from the beginning. And it was a good show. And this was actually before I was like a Marvel person. I watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before I saw most of the movies. Weirdly enough.
Have you seen Avengers Infinity War?
Never heard of it.
Okay.
Actually, it was the I almost did the first one that I went saw in theater, but that I saw the first Avengers movie in theater. That was the first one though, where it was like finally when Infinity War was coming out in like a month. Everybody around here was talking about it, like Rob and just various other people. So I was like, you know what? I got like a month. There are like 20 movies. I'm gonna watch a movie a day, and it gives me some like if there are a couple days built in where if my schedule's just too swamped, I can't watch it a day. I'm fine. And so I did that, and then I remember I came in here. I worked a show from 10 to 11 with a person, and when I was done, I was like, you know what I'm gonna do now? I'm gonna go to a movie theater like 11:30 a.m. in the afternoon. I'm gonna go watch Infinity War. I was hooked ever since.
That was so vague that even I had a hard time tracking what the little Easter egg in there was, but I got it. It's shocking to me that being your path into your Marvel addiction worked. Because it feels like you did like the cartoon thing of like taping your eyelids up and just like, I am going to force myself to watch all of this Marvel content. And by the end, it feels like the Stockholm syndrome must have set in.
Absolutely. I was at that point. I was in, and yeah, I very much I love the movies. I'm gonna go home tonight and I'm gonna watch the first episode of Moon Knight, which came out technically. Last night at midnight, but
this morning.
I didn't want to watch it this morning.
Yeah,
it's more of a I want to watch it at night. It's more of a nighttime
if
show.
you watch Moon Knight at 11 a.m., you're doing it wrong.
It doesn't feel, and for whatever reason, I've been kind of like that with every Marvel TV show where I'm like, there's something about watching it. We've had this conversation. Watching it before work almost feels like it's taking away from the experience. And part of this is because
something
like.
About it.
There's just something about whenever you even though like my mornings are completely free, right? I have 5 to 6 hours of free time very frequently before I actually come into work. But it's different because there's still work is coming up, so I don't feel like you can fully relax and get into the show. But like tonight, I can go home and it's I'm free the rest of the day.
I think I have not the solution, but I think I have the analogy for that. And one, I think on a very basic level, there's something to, if you're gonna watch something and like really relax, you want the last thing you do to go to bed. If you're like vegging out and then you got to get up and like go, do a radio show or whatever. The order of operations is kind of out of whack. But you don't eat dessert before your main course.
Well, I mean, you can.
When's the last time you did?
What's his name? Something Hammer in Iron Man 2. He eats his desserts before the main course.
That's fine. That was a reference that only you were going to get anyway.
Yeah, I forget his first name, though. Hammer Industries.
Army Hammer.
Uh-oh.
He eats his dessert first because his entree is apparently human blood. Not unlike Morbius, bringing it full circle.
And we're back.
So if I'm bringing you the question of, I want you to guess the Rotten Tomatoes score for Morbius, logic dictates it's probably like, if
between
I wasn't
0 and 100,
definitely between 0 and 100. If I wasn't bringing it to the table, like what would you have expected it to be? Because I think by asking, it's probably going to be outside of the median.
I mean, my guess is, and also there's something to like early scores. Very much, we see this frequently where Rotten Tomatoes will come out with a very high score, very low score, and then it changes
it'll
pretty
even
drastically.
Right.
Right.
This is just critics, no audience score yet.
I would assume it would be.
This isn't your guess to the game. I want to know what you would have guessed before I was telling you to guess.
For this movie, I kind of had a feeling like I thought critics weren't going to be very big into it anyways. I was not expecting very good initial numbers, so like I probably would have said maybe high 40s to low 50s.
That is exactly where I would have been. Exactly.
It seems, and I think the audience will be will obviously be a little bit higher, but
it feels
high
like
50s, low 60s.
It feels like a critic's 45, audience 62 kind of movie to me.
For sure.
What do you want your guess to be now? If I'm bringing it to you, it's not 50 on the dot, because that's not very interesting for a radio show.
2. No, realistically, let's go with 18.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Final answer is 18%.
18%.
The current rating on Rotten Tomatoes on 47 critic reviews for Morbius.
Before you give this number, I also want to point out to anybody listening, regardless of what this number is, I still very much want to see it in theater.
Nothing
because
could
it's a
change it.
Marvel movie.
Nothing could change that you're going. Your final guess was 18%.
Yes.
The answer is 19%.
Close.
Finger on the pulse.
I was close.
Finger on the pulse.
I got a pretty good feel for how people are going to feel about Marvel movies.
So I think there's some like fundamentally problematic Jared Leto stuff that I'm not fully educated on at this point. So please take all of my commentary about what I'm about to say about Jared Leto at as shallow a value as you're willing to offer me. I am impressed by Jared Leto as a general performer. He's the frontman for 30 Seconds to Mars. He won an Oscar for... Do you not know that?
What?
Did you not know that?
No.
Jared Leto is the frontman of 30 Seconds to Mars.
I knew the frontman to 30 Seconds to Mars did acting back in the day.
It's Jared
but
Leto.
I did not know it was Jared bleeping Leto.
Yes.
My brain just
exploded. He is the closest thing that white people have to Donald Glover.
Jeez.
And we're losing. The white people on this one, we are.
Atlanta season 3 just came out.
The fact that I haven't watched all of Atlanta is something I'm deeply ashamed of.
So good. Brian David Tyree, I believe is his name.
I thought you were I was so prepared for Brian David Gilbert to come out of your mouth just then that I was not.
I probably butchered his name. It's close to that. He's Paperboy in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He was also in Eternals. Such a good actor.
I gotta watch Atlanta. So anyway,
the whole cast is fantastic, obviously, but he is just, whew.
So the thing about Jared Leto, you have that he's an outrageously talented person. Frontman of 30 Seconds to Mars. I think he won the Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club. tiptoed into the superhero world as the Joker in Suicide Squad. We'll come back to that. In House of Gucci, which just came out, he's an old fat man. I've not seen the movie. I don't know if his performance is good or not. I think it's kind of interesting. He's all over your TV right now in ads for Morbius and for the WeWork miniseries or whatever it is. We Crashed. He plays the head guy from WeWork. Had some earlier stuff I imagine that people actually enjoyed before he got.
I mean, he's
very,
been
he's in Fight Club. He's like a bit character. He is Angel Face in Fight Club. He is I Want to Destroy Something Beautiful.
I mean, he has been because I knew he was the lead singer, or I knew go back to 30 Seconds to Mars. That was a band I listened to when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Right? So you were talking 15, 16 years of Jared Leto being a prominent figure. I just didn't know was the lead singer of freaking 30 Seconds to Mars.
And he goes from role player in Fight Club to, I think, Oscar, but at least nominated for Dallas Buyers Club, to this latest thing, this latest sort of pivot. And I want to make sure, if anyone's been like, wow, Josh really loves Jared Leto, here's the sharp left turn.
Nothing on the stream so far.
Here's the turn before everyone turns on me.
They turned on you long ago.
Fair enough. They didn't turn on me. They turned off me. The stream is closed. There's currently something happening with Jared Leto where it's he's weird and famous and eccentric. What if we made him the Joker? Or then, I don't know if anybody's been in a Marvel thing and a DC thing closer together than Jared Leto's Joker to Morbius. That is a very close one. Rudy's on it. This is a Rudy research question.
There's one person who I think might have.
But you had that turnaround very quickly for him. And I could have seen the weird eccentric Jared Leto does a weird eccentric Joker. It felt like there could have been room for that. It did not quite work out that way. But just from the Morbius trailers, I don't really think I get it. I feel like, as someone who did just explain to you all the ways that I do believe that he is a tremendously talented person, and maybe a weirdo for reasons I probably should have Googled before this segment, but I feel like it's doing that thing of, we just need an A-list name that people have heard to try to get this Morbius movie going. What if we make it Jared Leto? And somebody was like, he could probably do it. That's a star. Maybe this will be the thing where Jared Leto is attached to one of these projects and something incredible comes from it. Ryan Reynolds?
No, because you're thinking of, obviously, technically, yes. He was Green Lantern.
Green Lantern to Deadpool? It was a long time.
I would say there's a big gap in there, and everybody hates Green Lantern with a passion.
Nobody liked Jared Leto's Joker. Chris Evans was in the same universe, two different characters. I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now.
Who I was thinking was, in my head I was like...
Michael B. Jordan also in Fantastic Four and another Marvel thing.
He was Black Panther.
Right. But didn't he play...
Well, Fantastic Four is Marvel.
No, I know. But I'm saying that Chris Evans and Michael B. Jordan both did Fantastic Four and other Marvel products.
Yes.
Well, because he was Human Torch
at that time
in the reboot.
They were obviously owned by Fox, right?
Yeah.
But not, But yes, you are correct.
None of these are real answers to my original question. I'm just thinking out loud.
I was thinking Josh Brolin had, but he did not do any DC movies. He was obviously also Cable in Deadpool, while also being Thanos, but two Marvel movies. But
those timelines overlap. That's pretty interesting.
They literally make a joke Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool makes a joke about who are you, Thanos?
Oh, that's funny.
And Deadpool 2, which is it's pretty good.
I don't think I saw Deadpool 2.
It's really good.
Did I see Deadpool 2?
It's good. Watch it.
I saw the first one. First one I enjoyed.
It's Deadpool 2 is fantastic. I cannot wait for Deadpool 3. It is. I'm sure I mentioned it on the show before, just my overarching love of Ryan Reynolds. I think the man's a genius. He's great. And the thing that's so great about him, and here's the reality,
that he sells gin and cell phones.
There's that.
Oh, okay.
Which, have you seen his cell phone commercial? It pops up on YouTube quite a bit.
I'm sure I've seen it.
It is so good. it's such a basic, simple commercial that really you don't feel like is that funny, but like the way he delivers it, you're just like, this man's so good. But anyways, the reality is we don't know any of these people, right? They portray what we want them to see. But Ryan Reynolds does legitimately just seem like a good dude. And that's another reason why I really like Ryan Reynolds. I just hope I hope I never hear that story. I don't think with him we will, because he seems like a good dude, but, that's what we say about everybody. Hey, he seemed like such a great neighbor while he had 3 kids locked in the basement, right? So, you never really know the people, but I love Ryan Reynolds.
I will say, despite, I'm far, 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 far more likely to make jokes about #cancel culture than I am to have an actual, serious discourse about how big of a problem it is in our society. As you can tell by the tone of my voice, I don't think that's where we're at. I will say that I am a little bit nervous sometimes to just talk about famous people for exactly that reason, of just to be like, here's why I think Jared Leto is a really interesting famous person. And then someone's like, yeah, but did you know that he drinks dog blood for sustenance? And I'd be like, no, I didn't. If I did know that, I probably wouldn't have said I thought he was cool.
So Brian Tyree Henry, who is in Atlanta, Paperboy, Eternals.
You did call him Brian David Tyree.
Yes.
Because you made him a combination of a beloved Polygon figure and the football player that caught a pass on his helmet in the Super Bowl.
Pretty much.
Hold on. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
He was in The Joker. Also, he was the voice of Miles Morales' dad in the Spider-Verse movie, which I did not know. He's a great actor, man. He's become one of those actors where it's, if I see he's in something, I don't need to know anything else about the movie or the TV show. I'm just like, yeah, I'll check that out. I want to, that is something I want to watch. Kumail Nanjiani's in that group as well now. Just the people where you're like, oh, this person's in there? Yeah, I'll check that out. Don't care what the plot is. I'll check it out.
Did you see? I was gonna say, did you see The Joker? But I don't know if you did.
I have not actually seen The Joker.
But it's a DC movie, so you don't give a bleep.
No,
you're a Marvel boy.
It's not that I don't care at all. I don't have the desire to seek it out. Now I have an HBO Max.
I also haven't seen The Joker. Is it on HBO Max?
Now. I don't know if it is, but
okay. Most
of the DC things are on HBO Max, or they're going to HBO Max. Now that I have an HBO Max, I am more. It's easy for me to seek out these properties because I don't really like going to movie theaters in general. I prefer watching a movie at home. I just also don't want to be spoiled on Marvel movies. That's why I go see a Marvel movie in theater, because I don't want the spoilers there. Really, anything else, I don't really care too much about spoilers, because there's also a good chance I'll forget. I heard about the ending of Breaking Bad before I watched Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I rewatched Breaking Bad, I had totally forgotten what the ending was.
Right.
And then when I saw the ending, I was shocked. And then I was like, oh, yeah, no, actually, I knew this. I remember this being spoiled to me. I very frequently will forget spoilers, but with Marvel stuff, I just don't want to take that chance.
Let's play a quick game. Let's play a quick game before we take our break here. Fresh or rotten? I'm going to read you the blurb on Rotten Tomatoes of a review of Morbius, and you tell me if you think it is a positive or a negative review. If anything looks very spoilery, I will steer clear. It actually is a pretty decent premise for a superhero movie, and in its early moments, Morbius is quite promising. Is that a snippet from a positive review or a rotten review?
Positive.
Fresh or rotten?
Fresh.
That is fresh. Morbius works better as a horror movie than as a vampire superhero origin story that's supposed to have a place in the Spider-Man franchise. Morbius has too many plot holes and not enough personality for it ever to be considered a classic superhero film.
Rotten.
That is a rotten review. This one starts with, whatever, man, I liked it.
Rotten. No, just
that's fresh.
I think that's how I'm going to feel about the movie, where it's because what they are trying to, Sony, is to take villains, right, and turn them into heroes.
Right.
Or at least anti-heroes.
Right.
I think I'm going to kind of have my feelings of this movie are going to be like, yeah, it was, because I think this is how also all the Sony Sinister Six villain characters are going to go, where the movie's like, yeah, it wasn't that great of a movie, but I liked it, because that's how Venom is, and Venom 1 and 2. They're really not that great of movies, but they are action. It is fast-paced. They're like, hey, 90 minutes, here we go. and it's like, okay, I can get into it. I fully understand it's not a good movie, but I enjoy it.
I'm going to snip out even just snippets of the snippets here to make this a little more challenging. A bland, competent, and safe superhero adventure.
Ooh, fresh.
That's a rotten one. The following sentence was, that seems destined to be forgotten before its end credits finish rolling.
Yeah.
The best thing about Morbius is it keeps the utterly obvious plot moving along and isn't exactly boring.
Fresh.
That's rotten.
Dang. So these are tough, these last two.
Morbius does eventually become a cluttered slugfest, as all things must.
Fresh.
That's a fresh review. That is a fresh review.
Yeah, I felt, because that sounds like the Venom movies. That review sounds like both Venom 1 and 2.
Boy, this was
Sony's
savage.
Not really that good at making these movies, but they're just kind of riding Marvel.
Last one. Running at 104 minutes.
Nice.
Is that a fresh review or a rotten review? Snippet of a snippet.
I'm going to say rotten.
It's fresh, baby. It's
okay.
fresh. 14% of, or what was it? 19%? 19% of critics said that this movie is worth your time.
And it's very much, again, like a Venom movie. They're shorter. They're like, hey, we're not trying to give you a 2.5 hour thing here.
That's true.
It is like 90 minutes of chaos. Here we go.
You could legitimately watch Morbius twice or go see The Batman.
Yeah.
It is actually really close to being true.
Or any of the actual MCU stuff, right? They're all generally 2.5 hours long, and Eternals was 3.
I do think there is something to be said for if your favorite part of a movie is how short it was, that maybe it's not great.
No.
But,
I firmly believed heading into this movie that it will not be a great movie and probably not a good movie. I'll probably enjoy it because I'm just kind of in on the Marvel thing, right? And also just seeing I am curious to see what Sony does with the bigger picture here. They're trying to create a Spider-Verse, right? The Spider-Man CU, the SMCU, you could say. I am curious to see how that goes. I think it's going to be full of a lot of movies like this. Except for the movies that they bring back Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, or Tobey Maguire.
And maybe in Morbius, maybe you'll get to the halfway point, and Jared Leto's just gonna bust out the chorus from The Kill. You've got options there at least, and if nothing else, at least it's not very long, which can't be said for this radio show because it's 3 hours. You made it this far, you might as well stick around for the next 20 minutes.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost.
was I'll give you a concert review. I'll give you a little peek into the trip that fiance Renee and I took last week, as was previously planned back in September. I had planned to take a night off from doing this show to go see Glass Animals.
That was your first mistake.
In Kansas City. That was clearly where it all started going wrong. I was glad I had that night off because at that point I was, by the morning of that day, literally don't remember what happened after like 1 or 2 a.m. That was the beginning of my hospital trip and finding out I had diabetes and almost dying and all of that fun stuff. But that next night, like literally the night before, I was holding on hope that maybe this is like a wild stomach bug and I'll feel better tomorrow and maybe I could just go and sit in our seat at Glass Animals because we had an actual seat and wasn't just, GA and everything. I remember having that thought the Monday or Tuesday before. And then hospital, there for several days, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what ended up being known as the day the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill, I had planned to take the night off from AES. It would have been an awesome night to have a radio show to come in and talk about the Chiefs trading Tyreek Hill. And yet, Renee and I didn't make it to St. Louis.
Did you get super diabetes?
The amount of diabetes that I have, I believe, is unchanged. And we had a wonderful trip to St. Louis. The drive wasn't wonderful. It was pouring rain, and I was very stressed out about the fact that I was on the road as incredible, franchise-changing news was happening to the Chiefs.
Also, the drive between here and St. Louis is just sucks.
Not great. I-70 is not scenic, per se.
I've made that drive many times going to Lexington. Not fun. Now, once you get past St. Louis to Lexington, it's beautiful. Trees everywhere. Beautiful rest stops every 30 minutes. They're super nice. It's great. First half of that road trip, though, is brutal.
Yeah, which also included at one point, an hour in, somewhere around then, I think the trade actually happened, and we just, pulled into a gas station, and I had so I could tweet, because I'm sick. But that was, that part of it was stressful. But we got to St. Louis. There's a really very new venue called The Factory in St. Louis. It's just, there's a little bar area in the back of it, and there's a balcony, but ultimately it's a big open floor area, but you got a nice elevated stage, so everywhere on the floor you can still see pretty well. And we finally actually saw Glass Animals, which was had just become one of my absolute favorite bands that I was not particularly into until early last year, I would say, and just absolutely took over my brain. I love everything they've put out. It's just I am in love with. So actually getting there and seeing the show on its own, we had a thought of there's this weird crazy light fixture thing that spins and stuff up on the ceiling at this venue in St. Louis. And at one point I looked up and we're like, oh, that's the thing that's gonna fall on us, because the from the Tyreek Hill trade to Scout going to an emergency vet deal that day or two before, to the weather and everything else. This is just us trying to go see Glass Animals is a cursed experience. We made it, and the set design was very neon vaporwave, big old school 90s monitor in the background, a computer monitor, but that actually played the graphics, but it looked like a big old tube monitor. The set list, incredible. Glass Animals has banger after banger. It's ridiculous. The performance was great. I was giving this detail to former Interch and president of Power Rankings, Tucker D. Franklin, now of KC Sports Network, Let It Fly Media. And I also made this point to Renee mid-show, which I'm sure she did not need to hear from me. It was probably the best mixed show I've ever been to. Audio-wise, production-wise, it sounded excellent. And if you've been to a lot of shows, you will know what I mean when not every show sounds good. Every show should be fun. If you go to whenever me and Lebo, which is really me and Ray, but sort of also me and Lebo, went to see Tyler the Creator.
She was the third wheel.
She really was. Vince Staples was fun. I like Vince Staples. My ears hurt so bad by the end of his set.
That might be the worst sound that has ever ever happened on this radio show.
Really?
That might be.
I'm hoping it just clipped enough that it didn't hurt anybody's ears or whatever. But it's just the whole set sounded like that.
It was not painful necessarily. Like,
it's just a bad sound.
It was just a terrible sound.
And so Glass Animals, though, like, it sounded like live album quality in person, which maybe is partially the venue, maybe it's partially because how good Glass Animals production all is, live performance. It was fabulous. So I would say if anybody is interested in seeing a show at a place called The Factory in St. Louis, really cool venue, really, really well set up. And if anybody is willing to risk hospitalization, maybe a Travis Kelce trade, maybe your dog becomes very, very frail very quickly, maybe there's a torrential downpour for your entire drive, I would say if you're willing to risk those factors, go see Glass Animals. It was stupendous. So there's my Glass Animals concert review. Everything they played from Dreamland was great.
Happy you finally got to do that, man.
I'm very happy that we got to do it. I am very happy that we got to like kill the curse, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not a big jinxed, cursed, superstitious type of person.
But when you almost die, you start to become one. Yeah, I get it.
That got me a little bit. That got me thinking. But then it was really the torrential downpour, the entire 4-hour drive, and it was really, really Adam Schefter tweeting that Tyreek Hill's going to the Dolphins or Jets.
Happened so fast, man.
So fast. I had just taken some insulin, which means I needed to eat within the next 20 minutes or so. I just taken some insulin in preparation for a breakfast sandwich. We were going to get coffee and then begin the drive. And for like 15 minutes, I just sat in silence in my car in the parking lot, looking at my phone, and Renee was just sort of like waiting for me to make a decision. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that right now because it's very stressful. But it worked out. Chiefs got some draft picks. They got to see Glass Animals. 10 out of 10 show. Curse broken. We need to take another break. We'll come back, talk about something else. I've got another nonsense little review for you that'll take a little more than a shot clock review would. Maybe we get Rudy to explain why he's enticed by the video game Tunic, though he hasn't played it yet. Video game talk. AES After Dark. Next.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app and 810WHB.com.
Attention investors. How would you like to collect a government-backed check with secure double-digit returns in as little as 21 days? The tax lien code is going to expose the best-kept secret in real estate investing in a free 20-minute Kickstart video. Text the word money to 26022 now and let their free video show you how to earn government-backed returns up to 25% with as little as $50, or how to invest in tax-delinquent homes that are 50% off market value. Plus, see how you can access private tax lien inventory not available to the public. So if you want to become a real estate investor that buys tax liens from the comfort of your own home, then text money to 26022 now to get your free Kickstart video. Text money to 26022 right now, and you'll get free tickets to attend a live training in the Kansas City area that will include your VIP tax lien bidder number, a power bank charger, and a tax lien investor kit free to all attendees. So text money to 26022. That's money to 26022 for your free Kickstart video now.
Sports Radio 810 WHB is headed to New Orleans with the Kansas Jayhawks to bring you exclusive coverage of the Final Four.
I'll be in the Big Easy bringing you interviews from Westwood One's Radio Row from coaches all around the country, and we'll be covering the Jayhawks as they try to put the finishing touches on this Final Four run.
Follow the Jayhawks on your home for March Madness, the Final Four, and National Championship. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
On Thursday, the program will be broadcasting live from the Hen House off 119th and Row in Leawood. The Berry Girls will be at Hen House offering great healthy eating tips for your family. Get ready for the outdoor season by following the Berry Girls plan. There will be many great meat specials from the Butcher Block and great beer specials from Harry's Brewery. So come to Hen House at 119th and Row on Thursday with the program. Hen House, their family serving your family for 98 years. Times change, values don't.
Only 4 teams remain.
Your Kansas Jayhawks march on to the Final Four.
The quest for the national championship continues.
We here.
Join us this Saturday. It's the top-seeded Kansas Jayhawks versus the Villanova Wildcats in the Final Four. Pre-game begins at 3:30 on your home for Kansas Jayhawk basketball.
Kansas City's home of the Jayhawks, March Madness, and the Final Four. Sports Radio 810, WHB. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
We've had a very like woke hour here, I feel like.
On Sports Radio 810, WHB.
We just have a minute here. Here's a quick new Switch game review. I decided over the weekend that I was going to go ahead and just spend $60 on the on Kirby in the Forgotten Realm
or Land.
I was going to say Land, but Realm sounds better.
I think it's Land, but Realm does sound better.
My very quick review, I've put a few hours into it. I've gotten through a couple of worlds. If anyone ever said open world Kirby game, it's super not that. It's not an open world game at all. It's very on rails. But it's 3D and you can usually move the camera around. It is... I personally really like Kirby games. I generally like Kirby. Sorry, I was trying to remember what that loud ringing noise is. It's my pump again. Hey, guys.
I don't think I have a tab open.
Hey, I know, man. I know that my pod has expired, and I know that I've got a bunch of very expensive insulin that is gone and that I can't. Okay, yes, deactivate pod. Please let me finish the radio show. Thank you.
U.S. men's national team just qualified for the World Cup. Lost 2-0, but didn't lose 6-0.
USA! USA! USA!
We're back,
Lost
baby.
2-0. Lost 2-0.
We're back,
We are back. If the Kirby game would have come out before Mario Odyssey came out, I think it would be a little more exciting for most people. Kirby's a very friendly entry point, though, to games like that because you can just miss a jump and hold the jump button, and it'll boop, 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 boop. It is hard to lose in this game. I have not been in real danger for my character very often.
I assume I played the demo on the wild mode.
Yes.
Super easy.
Yes, I'm also playing on wild mode.
Totally fine.
It wouldn't hurt my feelings if it killed me once or twice.
Another ramp up, yeah.
But I've enjoyed it. It's very cute. It's very pretty as a game. It's a good visual gaming experience. I would say also it is more or less it has allowed me to play the game on the big screen, and Renee doesn't mind watching while she's doing something on her phone instead of making, go into handheld mode. It's a fun game to do commentary for. I don't know if it's a great game, but I'm enjoying it. I don't know if this is a good show, a great one, but I hope you'd enjoyed it. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Till then, bye, Mom.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Only 4 teams remain.
Your Kansas Jayhawks march on to the Final Four.
The quest for the national championship continues.
We here.
Join us this Saturday. It's the top-seeded Kansas Jayhawks versus the Villanova Wildcats in the final.